work and it makes big money, but certain people aren't gonna be happy. It's the same.
But you can.
Okay, we are ready to call the meeting to order, and we are being recorded. Deferred. So welcome, Anna. Sherry?
Yes.
Well, welcome back from the last meeting. You're all alone tonight.
Yes, my buddy's busy.
Oh,
The choir practice, right?
there you go. Okay, well, so welcome, and just to know with the call to order that this meeting is a continuation from the previous meeting that we suspended on January 28th. It's committee of the whole, and we're gonna focus on the deferred items and have a budget discussion. So I have a couple of changes to the agenda, but anybody else have any agenda items to add? Okay, we're gonna shift number 5, the new business, the budget discussions to later, to budget 5 will become 8 all along here. So 6 becomes 5, 7 becomes 6, 8 becomes 7. We just move along. So we're gonna do the budget stuff later. I want to get these reports and things done because we've already delayed them one meeting. So we'll get those done. And then if we need to follow up with more budget stuff, which we likely will, then we will set another meeting to do that. And I have an item of correspondence to add under correspondence. So it's G, it's from the library board. All right, nothing further. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Deputy Mayor Boots.
Well, I'm just wondering, are we approving the agenda as circulated here? Because it is different than what you suspended with the presentation as an addition.
So we're approving the budget that, the agenda that we have here with the addition of that one item and the rotation. So there are items that are on this agenda that were not on the previous one, which is the presentation.
Okay, that's what I just wanted to.
Yeah, so that's the presentation. So we have a motion to approve by Deputy Mayor Lutz, second by Councilor Sereno. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any contrary minded? Okay, so first item then will be our presentation. So Anna, welcome, and we'll give you if you want to stand there or stand anywhere, you're welcome to.
I guess I can lean on that.
Yeah, if you want, that's what you normally do, so.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for giving me this time to speak to you all. My name is Anna Marshall, and I represent a group of very talented artists and a group of equally as talented intended board members of the Vardo Fair Society. And as outlined in our proposal, which I think most of you have seen now, we have the intention to create a summer fair for Berwick on every Saturday from June through September. And that would include a juried artisan market, entertainment, and a food services. There's lots of fairs throughout the valley. So in order to stand out, we want to create something really special. And our idea is something along the vein of a small Renaissance fair. Something that's lively, stuff going on, entertainment, things for kids to do, something would something that's everybody looks forward to going to on Saturdays. I won't go over all the details that were in the proposal, but I want to give you a chance to ask any questions you might have. But I do want to say that I think Berwick is growing, and as an artist myself, I think culture plays a very big role in any successful, town, city, community. And Berwick's come a long ways with its recreational facilities, and I just think maybe we could get some work to do on the cultural aspect of it. So we've got some cool murals in town now, but those are static, and we want to create something that's a little bit more lively and give a place for artists. Most of these are local artists. There'll be some that aren't, of course, but many of them are local artists. And we want that, we look for that, and I think this is something that residents would look forward to go to on Saturdays, take the kids and go on down. people from other towns, surrounding towns in the valley, and tourists that are traveling through. And anything of this nature, of course, has the spin-off of restaurants, other businesses in town are gonna benefit from people coming into town. I also think that it has the potential to perhaps draw new business to town. When they start seeing cultural things like this going on, and they start to say, well, hey, you know, maybe it's a good place for my restaurant now. And last but not least, I really believe that things are really tough right now for everybody. Food, gas, this whole Trump thing is giving everybody a headache. And I just think it's nice to have something positive to look forward to and something fun. And that trailhead on Mill Street is just crying out for something to happen on that beautiful big deck you've got. And 2 boxcars that need just a wee bit of work. But we just like to see that happen and do something there that, you know, we can be proud of. Any questions? I'm here to answer any questions you have, whether it's all.
Councilor Serena.
Your theme was a gypsy theme?
Yeah,
Is there any ties to gypsy culture and all that in Berwick?
it's just a Renaissance fair, is basically, we're calling it a gypsy fair because number one, we wanted to create something that was a theme that had something to do with those boxcars. Boxcars are a little, you know, what are you gonna do with them, right? And so we thought, okay, boxcars, hobos used to jump on boxcars and travel. We're right beside the trail, people are traveling, bicycles, whatever. And artists are all kind of a gypsy spirit anyway, right? So we just thought it pulled together really well. And eventually our decision, our idea was to paint those boxcars very bright colors akin to the gypsy caravans, which is where we get the Bardo name. And yeah, it was just something different to make it stand out, because like I said, there's a lot of markets right down through the valley. And they're just basically usually a row of tables with tablecloths and people standing behind them. And we want something that makes people sound like, we gotta go to Berwick, you know? We chose Saturday because we know Tapestry operates on Saturdays up in Harborville, and it's amazing what that little community has created. So it's time for Berwick to kind of step up and have something as well, and a lot of people will travel if they know there's not one but 2 things to go to in the area, so.
Councilor Lyman.
So you said that there would be some food components, so
Mhm.
what, how much, like, will there be some of this?
Food trucks.
Food trucks?
Yeah.
So
we don't-
will be any sort of farm market kinds of
No,
stuff?
we didn't, no, we decided to really focus on a juried artisan vendors. Because the food, we've got beautiful farm markets right around here, and we don't want to compete with Nichols or Avery's or any of the food farm markets that are around here. Tapestry has a lot of food, so we just didn't want to compete with them. Let's be something different, stand out.
Can I ask a second
Certainly.
question? So I participate in community gardens, and I did notice in your proposal that you're not concerned about sort of touching the space that those gardens are in. But
Until we get really, really big, you know. we might have to
you're not
talk.
getting there. But I'm just, have you considered kind of how you could incorporate some of the aspects of what's happening there in what you're doing?
Well, aside from, you just give people good food, give food away, I guess. I mean, that's another reason not to have food included in with our vendors, right? Is because you've got a community market there, which kind of would seem kind of fighting against each other, right? We had thought perhaps to arrange the tents for the vendors in such a way that we might kind of block off that area so that we didn't want any damage done to the gardens, like have people wandering through and throwing their, you know, pop or whatever inside with the gardens. But you know, we're open to suggestions on that. If we could work with you, whatever.
Deputy Mayor.
The only thing I think we're missing or should include in our budget for this is there's gotta be a porta potty from June to September then. If you're gonna have a fair, whenever we have gala days or any fair, there's porta potties. You have to have one. It's gotta be accessible, and I just think that needs to be included in her plan, our plan. If we're looking at doing this, because that's the only thing that I see missing, because you just don't have anywhere you can really run to. But that's just my comment.
Yeah, no, I think there were, I did list washrooms in the proposal, but yeah.
Councilor James.
Just a couple of questions, Anna, great idea,
Thank
good
you.
concept. You mentioned local artisans being involved in there. What sort of a numbers of those artisans do you see being involved or artists being involved? Do you have any scope on that at this point, or that's still under development?
We mean, how many would be from here?
Yeah, how many be from here? Are you talking about 10, 20?
Well, we're hoping, like, I think there's 27 to 28 tents or something. We're hoping to fill them all. Some of those, we want to include things like, we want to have a fortune teller. We want to have someone that does the henna art on your hands. Different things that are activities. We've been talking to a group of entertainers that would be putting on workshops. But as far as the art section itself, you know, Berwick isn't known as a nucleus for artists. I mean, we've got probably 4 or 5 that are really top-notch artists that are in the area that are very interested, they're part of our core group. And they're ready and willing and just chafing at the bit to get going on this thing. Then we would pull a call out through Craft Nova Scotia, right across the province to attract top-notch vendors. So that's what that's the crunch. I realize that we only threw this idea at you about a month ago, but you know, whatever way you do, whatever you do in those boxcars, you gotta do something pretty soon, or else they're not gonna be worth, you know, worth doing anything to, I think. And unfortunately for us on our side of it, in order to get the artists we want, to get the vendors we want, to get the entertainers we want, we gotta start right now, because they're already signing up and deciding where they're gonna be for the summer. And I'm just really nervous that we haven't already sent that call out. So I want to get that out as soon as possible. So it's kind of important to us that we get an answer this week. Because any later than this, I'm really nervous. We don't want to do this. All of us are committed to doing a top-notch first race fair. And we don't want to do it unless we do the best we can. And we need time to do that. And if we have to, if it's delayed much longer than this, we're gonna run out of time, and people are gonna tell us, well, I'm sorry, I've already committed to another fair or another, you know, trade show somewhere or a craft show somewhere. And it's, you know, we have to have time to get this all organized. I have to fundraise, we have to do promotional work, we have to do, you know, there's a ton of work to be done. And we're all ready, and we've got people committed to do it that can do those jobs, but we need the time to do it. So.
How large is your committee? And I would take it would be of like nature of, you know, similar background as you, but how large of a committee?
Well, we've got 5 board members, okay, and then we've got a corporate group of, I think, 5 artisans, but interestingly enough, some of them have, you know, secondary day jobs.
Mhm.
One of them is a landscaper. She wants to do some landscaping around the boxcars for us. One of them has a partner who has a warehouse full of antiques. He's gonna bring those, and we're gonna use some of those instead of tables and whatnot. We're gonna use those types of things in the boxcars. Because we want this to look unique. We want it to stand out. We want people to come and like, wow, you should see what they're doing in Berwick. I'd like to go over some of the entertainers we got planned, but I haven't got a commitment from them yet because I've been holding off waiting to get a commitment from you folks. So I really don't want to disclose that as yet because that would be a little premature perhaps.
Any other questions for Anna?
Just a question from, there's a meeting on Valley Wren. Is there any, and they have a tourism component in the Valley Wren. Is there any tie between this and what Valley Wren does?
That's a good question. Not from our end have we approached them about this. I'm not sure they're even aware of it unless, Anna, you've had any
I don't know
conversation with the
I don't
Valley
know
Wren.
anything about that. No.
Maybe good to make the connection, but there's nothing official.
Nothing official.
So there might be through their STAR program, they were looking at experiential tourism events. And so they were doing some work around that. I'm not sure though if they were providing funding or if it was more about helping you to develop your business was what they were focusing on right now for Brent.
I guess my last and hopefully final question without taking up all the evening is there a lot of these things are startup and there's startup costs and then there's development costs and then there's operational costs that keep going on and on. What would you see as being the minimum startup needed in order to get something off the ground?
Well, we're just looking to you folks to basically give us a stage, right? We just need those boxcars operational, like they're functional, so they've got doors that work that they're insulated, lined, put electricity in there, and I guess your suggestion was to put heat pumps in for heating and for cooling. We don't want them to be a hot box in the summertime and have people fainting or something. But we're willing we'd like to have the use of both of them to fill, but if we have to, if, you know, understanding that this is short notice, if you guys could get just one of them ready, we could use the other one as storage only. But if that's the case, we'd like to see both of them painted, because they need to be base coated and painted at the very least, not with the design that we hope for, that'll come in the second year or third year. But the first year, we need them base coated a bright color, because you want something that looks attractive, not just attractive for the people that are gonna come and visit the fair, but when we put this call out, I know these vendors, I know these artisans, and they check. I mean, they don't want to be associated with something that's not top notch. And if we're gonna attract the type of vendors we want, the type of artisans we want, they're gonna look, and if they see two rusted boxcars, they're gonna say, yeah, thanks, but you know, we're gonna go elsewhere. So we've got to have them base coated at least this year, so that they look bright, and so when people arrive, they go, hey, wow, look what they've done with these boxcars, look what's going on here. If you just look down the street right now, you see a deck in a brown box. You know, it's not very attractive. So that's what we're looking to for you. As far as the rest of the promotional stuff, we're doing that. That's what our board's for. We're gonna raise our own money. We're gonna take care of all that stuff. You know, so we'll do the promotional. We're gonna create the website. We'll do the brochures, distribute them. You know, I've done this a million times. So I've done a lot of community art projects. So we'll do all that. We're just looking for the stage, basically. You know, permission to use that space and the stage. The porta potties, I presume that's something that the town would look after. That's kind of one of our wheelhouse. But other than that, it's pretty much like what I outlined in the proposal, what we need from you and what we will provide.
Deputy Mayor.
I guess I look at it a little differently to say, this is me treating them like a camp, or I need to get it up running. I could bring my generator up there, that's my power source. I could put an AC unit in for this year and plug my generator into that. Is that going to be enough? Like, do you need heat as well as that? I mean, they sell heat things that you can plug in. We could put a power source in like that this year. That's on a different budget line. That's what I'm looking at. I know where you want it to be, and I would love to see it there. I'm just not sure that we can get it all there this year, but I could.
No, we're willing to compromise. I mean, the town had suggested the heat pumps. I didn't. You know, we wanted some way to keep it cool, and it was some kind of ventilation, so whatever that form that takes, you know. As long as it wasn't something that was really loud, because there will be entertainment stuff going on. We don't want a loud machine going in the background, but, yeah.
Anna, is there a charge to the public to come on the grounds for this thing?
No, it's
Okay.
too open there.
Yeah.
It's too open. You'd have to put a fence around it or something. We just thought that's not what we want. And no, some markets do charge, we don't want to. So we will get in some income, because all the vendors will pay.
So there's a vendor's fee.
Oh,
each
yeah,
week.
oh, yeah, they expect that, and one of the key ways we're going to attract them is the fact that we can supply the tents that you folks have. Because that's really key, and that's a big asset for them not to have to drag along their own tent or buy a tent or rent a tent for the event. So the fact that you've got tents is a big plus. So we'd have to have use of them for the entire summer, and you know, hopefully it doesn't interfere with Gala Day. We would have a donation box. Now, I've been told other groups do that, we just have a donation box, and they said, you'd be surprised how much people will just, wow, let's help these guys. So we'll have that as well, but the rest of it would be fundraising.
So as you know, we have it in our budget, in our capital budget, to talk about one of the key pieces is getting those boxcars up and running. And one of the key things for us is determine how much funding that we can provide to that. So I think maybe Deputy Mayor alluded to it. There might be some need to negotiate back and forth, and you guys would be open and you kind of mentioned the kind of one box or two, or what we may need to put, heat pumps or not. We could have a follow-up discussion on some of that with you after.
This week?
Yeah, okay.
But
Yeah, we appreciate that you need it.
Like
to be done
seriously,
sooner.
we can't, I've talked it over the group, we said, we can't wait any longer, this week's it, because I'm really nervous I haven't sent it in already, because it's February, and it's,
So we'd have to figure how we would do that with our budget, and I think we're about to hear.
No, I just had a question, just
Okay.
two questions. One was, is it the expectation that all the operating costs, so power for the site, porta potty would be the town's responsibility, okay? And then, is there still interest if this was maybe do 1 week this summer and plan for next year? Like, is there still interest from your group to work over this year?
We had talked about that, waiting until the fall to give you folks lots of time and just do one event this fall. But if we do that, we won't get any vendors. Because they'll already be signed up, they'll already be committed to other places. They'll say, what's nice, but you know, we're already busy, so it's, yeah.
And then my only other thing to counsel and to Anna that we would need more information on is, so I just wrote down what you need the box cars to be used for. So doors that work, insulation, electricity, so what kind of finish? There's a benchmark that we can get to, and then there's what you're looking for. And I think in order for us to price anything out, we need to really understand, it's okay to say insulated, but what does that mean? We really need to understand what that means for you in terms of
Well,
finish.
all I said was, we would need plywood inside to finish the walls, right, of the ceiling. You had suggested the heat pumps, simply because we need some kind of ventilation in there
Mhm.
to, you know, keep it from turning into a sauna. And if you're gonna put a heat pump in, you gotta have ventilation, or you're just gonna be cooling the great outdoors, right?
Mhm.
So however you want to insulate, that's entirely up to you. You spend as much or as little as you want, that's up to you. I mean, and then whether it's for us or anybody else that has something they want to do in there, you gotta get the boxes finished so that you can actually, you know, work inside them.
Absolutely. I guess what I'm trying to understand is where does the town finish and you pick up? So,
I think, well, in the proposal I outlined that, like for the first year, if we could get, if we can only get the one box car to use and the other one say for storage, at the very least, we need them primed and base coated. So they look like something rather than just rusting hulks, okay? The fancy job, I mean, I've already had a quote on it for what, $37,000, okay? That's on us. That's something special that we want to do, right? And we want to find a way to make that happen, so it won't be this year, right? We've talked about things like love to create a float that we can take to other towns to promote it, right? Like, there's lots of things we want to do down the road, but we're just trying to take it, you know, baby steps at a time.
What kind of paint? I'm sorry, Bergen Harley has paint in town. I need to know what kind of paint needs to go on that for issues as well. They're very generous with donations, but I need to know, is it special paint we need to do the box cars, or especially if you're gonna paint over it afterwards?
They're your box cars. You know, you need some kind of rust proof paint, or
Right.
what, I don't, you know, like, I don't
That's all I
know.
needed to know. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, anything further?
I just think this is something that would be really positive for the town, and we went so far as to go to other towns and talk to people. They're organizing things to see how this would compare to other fairs, to see what they're doing, to see what they're doing in markets. Wolfville's market's primarily food, and they've got it really well established. We're not gonna interfere with that, we're not gonna compete with that, right? We found in Windsor, we went to various towns and checked out and talked to people, and there's you know, I live here too, so I have some pride in Berg, but there's a general feeling up there that Berg's kind of a blip in everything's going on here, and then just got kind of a little dead zone where Berg is, and they continue on, right? And we need something here to bring some excitement into town, and something that happens every week that'll attract people and give people in Berg something proud and something they can go to every weekend. And I think the kids would enjoy it. I think adults would enjoy it. I know the women will enjoy shopping. So it's yeah, I think it's a very positive thing, and it's just a matter of timing for us and for you folks. So, I mean, if it's impossible for you, we understand, but but I guess the other key element for me is that the group that we have, the artisans that we've got right now, are a very specific group, and they bring along with them these other skills or talents or well, like the antiques, for example. We've got that group right now, and just the stars aligned, and we've got that group together. Okay, we've got this board together. Next year, I doubt those people will all still be here, because that's just the nature of artists. So that if they do, it doesn't work, they're going on somewhere else, right? But they'll have other projects. So what would happen next year? I have no clue. I don't know if the same people will be around or not. I don't know. It's just right now, this is the group we've got together.
The last question is even to Anna, it's for to Katie, and I just asked this, Katie, what was the timeline for getting our deck done? I just wanted it there, when we put it, what was our timeline?
We received the grant in 2021. And we completed the deck.
So I mean, we reach out to people, but it sometimes, it takes time, and that, I just want that out there as well. So,
Well, and I appreciate your timelines and things you're working against, but I would just suggest that from what I've seen of those boxcars, they need attention real soon. Or else they're gonna have to be hauled away like some of the other towns have had to do. And then you'll have a deck with nothing. So, I mean, that deck is just tailor-made for what we wanna do with it. You know, it's a stage, you know, and it'd be perfect for what we wanna do, but I leave that in your hands.
Well, thank you, Anna. It's very exciting to hear the proposal. I mean, we've been,
certainly is.
well, since they came and the boxcars kind of arrived, we said we would take them when we did, really with no idea what we would do, hoping to promote the opportunity. Never really got much off the ground to promote it. And then they kind of sat, hoping something would come along. And now something has come along, and we've been talking about,
I
we
took
do
my
need to
dog,
do
I
some
took my
stuff.
dog for a walk and
Yeah.
I spotted them, yeah.
Yeah, so the opportunity's upon us now, council, and we'll need to have a conversation a little later about how much we can put into making this thing work. And
Like I
what
said-
we may still have to leave to discuss with you afterwards.
If I can say anything, Brian, like, just don't let this chance go by, because you got a killer group of people together that really wanna do something special, so that's up to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to number 4, which is from last meeting, the review of the action items. Then I'm gonna pass it over to Jennifer to run through that for us.
We did that.
We did not get the action items done now.
So I don't think there was anything to provide an update on specifically. Everything's been updated with what's been in progress versus what has not been started. And if it hasn't been started, it likely is sort of when the opportunity is available to do it. So one of the things is haven't sent a specific email out to VCFN yet. But if we get the chance to meet with them, we'll put the question out about whether there's any revenue to be returned to the parties. But I would take any question on any of the items that are there.
Okay, anybody have any question on those? We had a conversation with Paul and Andrew at the meeting regarding the growth based on building permits and new construction, and they didn't have the answer, but we were working on the answer, and I bet Lisa's really excited to share the answer with us.
I have the answer. So from a residential perspective, the assessment growth based on the building permit activity was 476,000. So the new tax revenue based on that, assuming no change in the tax rate, would be $7,600. Your commercial assessment based on the building permits has actually decreased. And that's by 42,400. And that is based on storage building units that their value decreased in assessment year over year. And there was an appeal on a piece of property, I believe it was Lionsgate, and that decreased as well year over year. So it was a decrease in commercial based on 42,400, and the decrease in tax revenue for commercial, assuming no change in the rate, would be negative 1.6, so 1,600. So your combined net increase in taxes based on your assessment growth due to building permits is $5,918.
That's significant.
Well, that's why I wasn't that excited when we had the information, so. Yeah, and one of the notable items was the demolish of 131 Foster Street. So that was on our residential roll as a single unit dwelling, and that has been demolished, and that's where Bentley's is doing their development. So while it's a decrease on this assessment year, once the units are complete, then we'll see that increase reflected at that time.
And we know, sorry. We know at least one person didn't get their appeal, they missed it by one day. I'm just saying last year, and they said we'll be appealing this year.
And we do, just for reference, we do, when we budget, we account for appeals as well within our assessment. So it's generally, we use 150,000 for residential, and I believe it's about 100,000 for commercial. So we try and cover anyone that may be successful with an appeal.
So, effectively, we're talking about maybe 1-2 residences being built last year.
Yes. Yeah.
Just go up behind where you live there.
I know that.
That doesn't make sense, does it?
They have to be complete as of
December.
December 1st. So there are a couple, if you look in the veterans, like the little subdivision area, which were started. But there's really only one that looks like 2 that were completed.
I know Sonny sold the one in the corner there, next road up from me at the first corner.
Mm-hmm.
And I drive down there at least once a week just to see how things are going or if new ones are started.
All right. That answers my question. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Okay, and we're continuing to track any action items from last time and tonight. Okay. Very good. Anything further on the action items?
I do have one. I just realized, we didn't update this since the last meeting because we didn't generate a new package, but I'll steal Aaron's thunder. We did have a kickoff meeting with CBCL, and they are going to plan for a public meeting on the stormwater management plan for some time in February. Yeah.
At no extra cost.
At no extra cost right now.
Right now, they'll charge us later.
No, they needed to, they were trying to arrange it at the same time they would come down and do a survey of the area. So as long as that all works out, then there wouldn't be any additional cost. And if there is, then we would find that out before agreeing to
Yeah,
the addition.
they would submit a change order and we could evaluate that.
But they seemed pretty confident that they could work that into the current scope.
Great, anything else?
I can give a small update too. We get additional quotes for the installation of safety grates on the storm culvert on Main Street. We were able to get an updated quote. The shortest answer is we got an updated quote and they're building up now. So hopefully by late spring we have them and we can get them installed.
What was the final cost?
Final cost was, it went down from 3,048, which includes HST, down to 2,358. Replaced some of the stainless components with galvanized components to get that cost.
Oh, that's good news.
Yeah.
Cost goes down.
Excellent.
All right, anything else then on the action items? Okay, let's move on to department reports. So, community development, Katie?
The report was there, happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Any questions for Katie?
Can we take it up to the next slide so it was just at? Oh, thank you.
One. Just one question, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Jameson, please proceed.
It's probably to do with me, but the Memory Cafe, great idea. I hope it's working well. Do we have any more update as to next activities, anything further? How's it going?
It's going well. I will say, and we think that the weather has certainly affected. But they have 4 regulars who have a person and a support with them that attend. They had 17 participating online last meet. So they are anticipating to continue every month and hope that have you, sorry.
I have been there, but I have not actually been,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so we've had a staff support from the town attend all of them as well. So we're supporting, handling some of the registration and being a bit of a liaison between the space and the folks who are running it. But I've heard great things, and I think the intention is to continue with it. And again, hope that because we started at a tough time of year when it comes to traveling here from the mountain or up and down the valley, that they're hoping that when the weather gets better, that the folks who are attending online will then come join in person.
And is there any linkage between senior safety and other organizations?
Yes, and so the Memory Cafe itself is its own organization within Nova Scotia. So it started in Wolfville and it's kind of branched into different areas in the valley. But they have a working relationship with lots of senior safety, lots of connections in the area that would be promoting and working together to ensure that folks know about the opportunity and support them getting there as well. It's a really well-connected network, and it's really great. It started in Wolfville actually, and it's
Fantastic.
really great
Thank you.
success, so.
Anyone else? Questions, Katie?
I think, can I?
You certainly can,
Question,
Councilor.
question, please, or a comment. So I was going through the things that you've mentioned in sort of the activities such as table tennis and the line dancing, et cetera. One of the other activities that happens here in the town hall is Monday mornings. There's a knitting group that meets in the community. Yes.
Yes, you are right.
And I just thought that
Yes, we can add that and share that certainly. There are some groups that meet in the community living room here, which the library is closed on Mondays. So that space is used for groups like that as well. So certainly, I think where we had a direct connection to the programs and back, we were just more informed on them, but you're right. There are things that are happening outside of those that we could certainly encourage to promote.
Anyone else? Katie, I have two. I think it's really neat to see that our staff are working with the Annapolis Valley Welcome Network, Evangeline Club, and the Family Resource Center. What's happening? What are those groups doing? They're helping with their local efforts, but can you elaborate a little bit on what their local efforts are?
Sure, so they are, excuse me. The Kings County Family Resource Center has been meeting on a regular basis with Taylor and Jordan, and they're really working to bring more programs into the area and working. So you'll see adventures and story time. They're working on a local program. So we've been working on them with more things like that. And they've just been coming to us with new ideas about programs. So that's specifically what we've been doing mostly with them. We're seeing great things in that folks are starting to come to us. We've reached out over the years, but I don't know if the timing or what's going on. We have more people reaching out. So it's mainly for programming opportunities to work together to offer things in the community.
So the Welcome Network, what kind of programs are they doing here? Have they started stuff? Like I know they were doing, you tell me.
Sure. So Taylor is the direct contact with that committee, but they meet on a monthly basis, a Friday night every month, and they are coming together.
They meet in Berwick?
At the library here.
Okay.
Yeah, and so there is a chair in a committee They meet on an ongoing basis. The representative with Ren was kind of the one who spearheaded the group. She's recently left, but there are still Barbara from the library. Taylor said there's usually about 4 to 5 families of newcomers that come to the area. They've worked more specifically on attending events and bringing folks into the community for events, programs, those types of things. And they've also been working on with us on new welcome package information, those types of things. But there is an active group in the community.
Can I just add to that, because I just had an email a few days ago that one of the things they're planning to do is do a conversational English coffee time with newcomers who don't speak English, and they were looking for volunteers that, and I got a, other than that, yeah, so, I mean, they're very active group, actually.
Good to hear. Councillor James.
I occasionally get a question on how do I find out about these things? And I guess, are we communicating a schedule of activities that are happening in our facilities so that people don't ask me, how do I find out about these things? I don't mind answering, but sometimes I have to do a search.
I fully understand that and can appreciate that it's not that easy when you have lots of things coming. We have in the past tended to list things on our social medias, but it might be worth looking at if we can create a calendar events, and sometimes things are happening that we're not fully aware of either. So there is a community chat that happens on a regular basis, and maybe even if we share at that point for folks to share with us what they're doing, that we could create a bit of a calendar to share with the community. So yeah, that's something we could look into. Right now, we're sharing mostly on social media. So to answer, no, there's no calendar that you can kind of look at that says, here's everything that's happening. But we could certainly explore how to do that more effectively.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Not a question, just another comment. Again, I'd like to give a shout out to the Valley Wildcats, not just for this year, but all the way up. My kids, of course, are getting older like everyone else is, but the Wildcats have always been there and been a big part of Bird in the school. And it's just great to still see that. I just want that out there.
That's a new program we started this year called School Tuesdays, where the Wildcats go to every school, well, 6 schools in the area on Tuesdays and interact with them. It's turned out very well. Yeah. And Wildcat Wednesday, they go to community groups, and they go to the after-school program, they go to the food bank, they go to Grandview Manor, and they go to the Evangeline Club. So, yeah, it's well received.
Yeah, we do.
They don't eat much though when they're there.
No, and they've changed over, so it's sort of getting them reintegrated into,
Yeah.
but, yeah.
Lots of changes.
but that's okay. They've
And,
helped.
yeah.
They've helped me, so. yeah.
good. The other thing, Katie, I wanted to ask about is that, or even mention the tree replacement program. We had one a number of years ago. I don't know if there's any records of that before, but it was kind of based on availability of trees through the nursery on the #1 highway, Briar Patch. There was a menu, and people could pick and purchase a tree off that through the town, and then the town would plant it for them, sort of thing. So it didn't cost us anything other than the guys to go down and dig a hole to help them out. So it was a different kind. I have no idea how it all went, but that was our approach. Not that it became an expense and a huge. We promoted it and did some of that. So I don't know what your plan is that you're working on there or not, but that was one of the concepts that we ran before. And then the other time we had a nursery down on Main Street across from John Prowse, which the idea was whenever we needed a tree to plant somewhere, we cut one down or cut one up, we would plant one somewhere else. So
That's what we're
the
kind of
nursery
combining all that
down.
information and looking at what other communities are doing now as well to see what might fit best.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
In my emails, I do have a tree thing. I'll have to go back and find it. It was passed on by someone, and I'll forward that to you, Katie, hopefully tomorrow.
I just wanted to follow up on what Katie said, because this was something that was brought up at a priority session 2 Decembers ago. But it also is something that since I arrived here that we've discussed is we don't have any money in our budget, so we take trees down and trim trees, but we don't have a plan for how we replace trees. So I think that's what this was more related to, but I like the idea of, there's always people who want to donate trees in memory, so having all those options, I think is great.
Just to follow up on that. Our trees do create a problem for some of our infrastructure. And sometimes those trees that come down should come down for more than one reason. Is there any particular spot that we could look at having a walking arboretum or something that would be cherished by our public to visit and to participate in and maybe donate a tree to? Just a thought.
Along our duck trails that we ever get.
That was one of the reasons, there was 2 reasons behind the plan that they had around having a menu and then the town planting them. Was A, to make sure you got a suitable tree, that people weren't just planting some trees that they shouldn't be planting or aren't a particular strong tree. And then the other thing is the location. If the town was putting it in, it wasn't gonna put it in underneath the power lines or where some innocent homeowner might think, here's a great place to plant a tree. Take one, takes a diseased one up in their backyard or down in the forest somewhere, plants it, and all of a sudden it grows up in the power lines. Like, it's just, we had a bit more control where trees went around. Anyway, that's just along the lines that Councilor James was talking about, where trees come down, they may not be a good spot to put it right there again, so.
And it certainly won't be just community development looking at this, like we can appreciate that there will have valuable info from public works, EDC, lots of things too, so.
Okay, thank you, Katie. Anything else? Okay, let's move on to public works, Aaron.
Okay, I'll just give a few quick highlights and then open it for questions. So the stormwater management plan, council approved that work scope last meeting. And we should start doing field work this month. And again, we should have a town hall session with the public this month also. As soon as we have a date scheduled, we'll get that advertised, so the public can be aware. As far as the blower and aeration work at the wastewater treatment plant, we have a signed contract. We're currently reviewing design drawings and specifications of materials, and that's going well. For the tertiary filtration, that's recently come to council and that work's been awarded. That was actually our last council session. And that formal letter of award went out last week. The next step is to prepare design drawings for that. In our next committee of the whole meeting later this month, we'll look at the Maple Avenue sidewalk design concept and just kind of see what we want to do and where we want to go with that. The next thing I'd like to mention is just the Centennial Park building. So the park building has been removed and there's now a temporary shed installed on the slab of the former building. That's been hooked up to power. It's been hooked up to water. By the end of this week, we'll have water again at the Carol's Place and the splash pad for this one. So that's coming along well. And the final thing I'll mention is the front desk work. That's been awarded. We had a kickoff meeting in early January. Roscoe is currently sourcing materials so they can start the mill work on the cabinets. Once they have everything manufactured, as far as cabinets and hardware, we'll then shut down the front desk area for about 4 weeks and come up with a temporary setup for that. So everything's progressing.
Just wondering if there was any feedback from the accessory committee. I was in the audience that night and I know they had time. Were there any comments that came back?
Accessibility committee?
Yeah, that came back for that. I know they were handed out of this.
We don't have it,
We thought it looked really good when we
Yeah, well, I'm not sure what part of that's not in the report that you're asking about.
Everyone had the design. I was just wondering if anything was
Oh,
submitted. Any
I
recommendation?
see what you're asking, yeah. I think there was just a couple of questions that were asked, but I don't think it made any changes to the design.
That was all.
Jennifer, comment on?
Yeah, so Elaine, Furnace sent along a couple of comments, and they weren't, that they didn't meet something, just a few comments for us to consider, so,
Good.
it was good feedback to have.
Great, thank you.
Just to let you know, the mayor's office could likely be relocated, and I picked out a nice spot in the Caribbean. So, see how that goes.
Food truck, right? Caribbean food truck?
Okay, anything further from Aaron? Okay, finance. Lisa.
All right, the report's been provided, so I'll just actually open it up for any questions or clarifications anyone might have.
Oh, Councilor James.
Just two things, I think, two things. Solar garden, it's operational. But is it totally operational is the question? And did we get the other transformer?
So,
Yeah, okay.
so we received, it's a switch cabinet or something that's required, so that when we remove the transformer that's there, we can still operate half of it, because the transformer that went down was the same one that connects the two together. So without that, then the whole solar garden would be down. So the cabinet arrived this week. So now we just need to send the transformer to Saskatchewan to be fixed, and then it could be as quick as 4 weeks, and it could be as long as if there's a different problem when they open it up. This is so we're responsible for the transportation under the warranty, but by sending it away and having them open it and check it, if there's any issues, that would be covered under warranty.
So it was a warranted item then?
It was for replacement.
For
We're
replacement.
still looking into whether I don't think there's loss of revenue associated with it, but we're still looking into whether there's any additional insurance pieces related to it, but definitely the fix of it is under warranty.
And the dam problem is the other one that's almost every meeting.
Yes.
Have we progressed any further along there?
We have, so our owner's engineer had completed the request for proposals. It's provided to BEC's admin support on Friday. So she will have that posted on the procurement website. However, if you recall, we did do a notice of interest. And with that, we had 7 people submit their interest. So essentially those 7 companies are eligible to bid on the project. So she'll be circulating the RFP directly to those to consider further bids. So it's good progress.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Before we go back to Jennifer, I want to go back to Aaron. I did check my notes. I did have one question, Aaron, that I forgot to ask you. Are we plowing out our connector trail pieces around town with the snowball? Do you know where they all are? I mean,
No,
you talk to Katie, she would have the list, kind of, but.
Staff, the existing public works staff have done it in years past.
Yeah.
So, give me anything new.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I will say that my little bit of trail does not get plowed. It's not, I slogged across the field. Used to plow right across the field, so that.
There's a number of those little spots that we should be trying to do as best we can.
They
because
do
they're-
the path up to
Yeah.
the field, and then it's just walk across.
The
It's a
staff
tough
will
road tonight.
know, but we're happy to.
At the 10 o'clock rock.
And Jennifer,
I was just gonna note that this would be something that could be a level of service discussion. So we're not doing it right now. If we do it, does that add additional time and cost to our public works staff to do that work if it's outside of, so maybe it can be done during working hours to
Regular
save,
business hours, friends, yeah.
as opposed to doing it as part of the
Yeah.
storm removal,
Yeah.
but just something that as we have these requests and these discussions, they do
This
have,
wouldn't be a new request. We've done this over the years, just
but have
not
they been
particularly
doing it?
consistently,
Mm.
but it's a sidewalk. If they're doing a sidewalk, then it's very much the same thing, because
I
it's
mean,
where
Marvin
people
Snow
walk.
we're getting to, like, last year.
But are
we
they
might have
all
done-
sidewalks? Like if
Well, no,
that's
they're
on-
not, but
Oh,
they're
right.
acting like a
Active
sidewalk,
trails,
right? They're where
yeah.
people walk to get from point A to point B.
And
And which
anything we
we built
have-
and constructed for them to be able to do that, or someone has.
And the
maintain.
machinery could to go through as long as it goes through before it freezes, and we haven't had stuff.
That's what I was more wondering
freezing.
about is, plowing across the field, like what does that do to your ground if it's not frozen like that? Those were more my questions
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
we might have done these things, but if they haven't been done consistently for a while, what does that look like for operations? And
Yeah.
do we have the proper equipment to be doing it correctly? So that was just more my.
I'll get an email to you tomorrow morning.
Okay,
on
Perfect.
that.
We'll put it as an action item to follow up.
Yes,
on.
please.
We'll find it.
Okay. Now I think we're going to go on to report. Jennifer?
So I believe I'll just ask if there's any questions on the report. The update on solar garden had been given about. Oh, I did want to just mention one thing. So, typically in years past, we use Factory Dale as a way to shave our peak demand for our Berg Electric. And with that being down, we are running a diesel generator out of the Public Works. So the Berg Electric employees keep an eye on when we're going to have really cold snaps, and they will come in and operate that generator during peak times of the day so that we can aim to keep the demand charge through Nova Scotia Power down for next year.
Just to follow up on that, a number of years ago, Ron Reagan had a program that allowed the town to shut off during peak hours water heaters. Is that program still working? And should I wake up to a cold shower some morning?
I cannot answer that right now, but I can follow up. I don't believe it's operating or that we are continuing to use that software. It's in place. But my understanding, unless you know more, we're not using it.
Right, no, we're not using it. It wasn't being really used properly for a number of years. However, with the new AMI and technology that we're looking to implement, we will be able to actually run campaigns through the town, notifying individuals and customers that, we can reduce our consumption, motivate them, and then they'll be able to to monitor that themselves through an app and see if they're not charging their cars that night or using their hot water or, reducing the temperature, that ultimately will save them money in the long run because we're minimizing the peak. So St. John Energy offers that right now. And it's pretty incredible the uptake that their customers have in engaging in that, knowing that, it hits their pocketbooks in the long run. So we will look forward to using that with our new technology that we get.
So it's an action item is what you're saying that we can look at, and I thought it was working all along until
It was
it hasn't been.
It's a connectivity issue, I believe, is
Yeah.
what the issue was, is not everyone's internet was connecting properly. So if there's ever a bump, then it would require someone to go out to their house and fix it. So it was a labor intensive and endeavor. However, as Lisa said, I think there's an opportunity as we work through the smart meter application to reconnect some of those moving forward
Thank you.
or other other options for doing the same thing.
I remember, I think the company that was doing that no longer existed. The owner operator passed away,
That as well.
yeah, and that was.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay, let's move on to committee reports. So again, there should be there in front of you, and I'll ask the counselors though to speak to them if they have anything they wanted to add. So the first one would be Kings Remo, and I guess Councilor Goddard was there. And David Mayor Boots were there. Okay, either one of you have the reports there from Dan Stovall, but
Dan Stovall did it, that's all I can say, it was excellent, he could have put the minutes out minutes after, Dan is so organized in that. Robbie Hiltz was selected, as I said, and John was selected after that, so it was a great meeting, very informative. We're lucky to have Dan.
any questions on that one? Okay, next one is the KMCC Governance Committee. Jennifer was there.
So I'll just take any questions that you might have on it. I don't know if you have any further questions.
Well, I just thought I might raise it just simply if that's okay, but it's on there, so the couches in the building security, and then the comments I've been getting from people who are really missing a place to sit in the lobby. There isn't, like now, there is absolutely nowhere when you come into the building to sit. And so people who have mobility issues find that a problem, but as I said, also, I think it's impacting the things like the canteen, because you go to buy a coffee and something to eat, and then you turn around and realize the only place you can eat is out in your car. You know, so it's kind of like and I got some very significant complaints and a really interesting conversation with visitors.
So-
Jennifer and then Council.
Do you know if those comments are also being submitted to the,
I didn't submit them to anyone else.
or if
Yeah, and I
they
don't-
have been submitting them?
I'm not sure if
Okay.
they have either.
Because I do think it's valuable. We only play one small role in
I
that
realize that.
collective. Though we did raise it at the meeting, as you can tell by the discussion that was raised. But I do think it's important that as the Berwick and District Community Association considers other options, for them to hear what the reasons are. So I think mobility and accessibility is the primary reason why they were great. So is there a compromise to the type of seat that might not encourage loitering? I don't know, but that would be something to maybe pass along, and we'll follow up as well as at our next KMCC governance.
It's an ongoing topic, I think. Deputy
Well, I
Mayor.
was just gonna say, yes, could they not address the issue with the people involved? Because the perfect example would be this weekend for our C18, Yarmouth comes all the way for a very early morning game. And I'd like to sit out before, driven 2.5 hours before they have to go in to the cold arena. Not usually, but even our arena was cold this Sunday. And you could see it on their faces, they were looking around like, is Berwick robbed? I didn't say that, but I'm one of the people, address the issue with the people that were doing that. And take it away, this is what can happen, you can lose stuff, it's been taken away, but could it be put back and deal with the issue with the people that were causing the issue?
So I think that,
Yes, please.
No, I mean,
You can,
I just want to say, I think that relates to the security piece, so that's how they need to address it, and there's no resources right now to address it with the security piece of moving people along and being comfortable in doing that security piece. So who, should we hire someone? So the BDCA, I think I mentioned here, is going to discuss it at their February meeting and then report back to the KMCC governance meeting in March to see if they've come up with a cost or a plan for addressing security, and then that might lead to getting back some seats.
the Lions opening the canteen has been a newer piece.
Yeah.
More recently than since the coaches that have been removed.
That was when they opened the canteen, and I bought something, that I realized the couches were gone, there was nowhere to sit. And then I did have a conversation with Lawrence about it. And yeah, they understood, but yeah.
Okay, anything further? Okay, let's move on to the Police Service Advisory Committee, so Councilor Sereno.
It was a great discussion. Officer Prime, Sergeant Prime, Sergeant Prime gave his report. We're getting 7 patrols per day in town. Routes are different every time. The officers have leniency to decide where they want to go, and that gives them opportunity to go to places if they see somebody or move around and all that stuff. We looked into the bylaw review, still reading that thing, trying to make sense of it. It's a lot of weird stuff in there. I don't know, it's weird. I'm just probably not used to it, so I have to reread that again. We talked about bylaw officer, because the police can't enforce our bylaws.
They can.
They can't, but okay, that's right.
It was, if you want me to just,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
more about, our bylaws need to be updated to give them the tools to enforce.
That's what it is, yes. So senior fraud is up, car fatalities are up, so I'm gonna get in contact with Tricia, see if there's something she can do to help educate our seniors with the safety committee and get some more education out there. Like, listen, if somebody's calling you and they're asking for gift cards, that's probably a scam, you know? They have no idea why car fatalities are up. We're gonna have to look, as Mike said, we're looking into other municipalities, see what they're doing for operations and all that stuff. They have a couple of reports coming up, so we're waiting on that. And just to give you guys a idea as to what's on the go, on a good day, they may have 4 officers, on a bad day, they may have 2. That's why you're not seeing them there as much. Maybe a bad day, then maybe only 2 of them for all of Kings County.
Oh,
Well,
Western.
Western, that's right, Western part of Kings County. So like, that's a lot to cover for 2 guys. It's a lot to cover for 4 too, if you ask me, but yeah, but they're still making, well, they're here, they're being seen, even a couple of our, Bruce there even said on his walks, he's noticing them a lot more often. So police presence is here. A couple of months ago, you may have noticed there was a lot more police presence, people getting pulled over and a lot more tickets getting handed out. That's because they brought in the traffic team. There is a traffic team here that concentrates just on traffic, and they do traffic hits every once again, so I brought it. So after hearing that, I wanted to bring it up here. Yes, I should have, I gotta put this before, don't I? Like, maybe we should look into maybe getting them here once a quarter at the very least. You know what I mean? Because there was a significant uptick in tickets. And a lot of people were getting warnings. If that happens once a quarter, something like that, then people start maybe learning that, okay, yeah, they do care, and yes, we will get tickets in the way. So I think it would be a good idea to have them here at least once a quarter, very least.
They bring the ghost car and they park outside and they hit it valid. They sit right there and they get them on a Friday morning. I talked to the officer. This was probably 2 years ago when I talked to him. I said, can I help you? And he said, no, I'm just here. And he said, I give more warnings and tickets. But he said, I come in once every 3-4 months. That's where he's at. He said, this is your big, especially on Friday. He said, they're hurry to get here.
So,
any questions for council?
As I recall, the Department of Justice is supposed to have a member on the
yes,
committee.
Bruce has applied and he's going through the application process now. So we should hear back from, I think we're just waiting on the province to get back to us now. So we're just waiting for that.
And if that happens, then we'll have an opening for another community member, and we'll be looking for applicants for that. Very good. Deputy Mayor.
My only last question, you said we're getting tickets. Well, we did our ticket number up and it was only $500 some dollars. So
Yeah, I know.
where is it? I'm sorry. But
Yeah, I know, I get it, but that was it. That was it.
it's
On
okay.
our action items.
No,
to
I
look
know, I'm
into,
just saying
and
that.
will- yeah. And if you're talking to that officer again, tell him to stop writing the warnings.
Warnings,
Go right to
only write the tickets.
All right, anything else? All right, let's move on to the planning advisory committee, so.
Okay.
Mayor.
Boom, we held our meeting January 13th. We hadn't had one since July, and Councilor Walsh and I were away at that time, but we were able to attend this one. It was good. It was a lengthy meeting and good discussion because there were alterations to the proposal there, and more of the road, and that was a big holdup, so it did get passed on to the committee as we've already had. But the road where they can't run it the way they want now, so the access road is the main road now, and it's only 6 feet wide. That's what, well, anyway, that was the biggest discussion. We had that. We had one of our members bring up about an update on 28 Main Street, and that was given by Jen. The update on 28 Main Street, the development, so that was given. Crystal went through her whole proposal. It's very well done. It's done here for us when we had our meeting. We had all our reports and that all the way back from July, and the good came out of that, as we're not having a meeting this month, those will be circulated and have been to the committee members so we can review them ahead of time. Other than that, tried to set a meeting, but we were not able to find a date, and kind of turned out we will not have a meeting this month, but I do have my dates in front of me and I'm looking, so we're trying to have our meetings if there's something to have a meeting about, so. That's all I have. Any questions?
Just one correction, you mentioned, I think, did you say the road is 6 feet wide?
What?
It's 20 feet wide, and it
Okay.
meets all the standards and requirements by those people who are required to look into that. So
That
it
is correct.
Yeah. All right, any further questions then? Okay, let's move on then to audit committee. Councilor Jameson.
You met? You approved it.
All through.
And it's all through, I take it. It's been forwarded on to the province. And I guess the only other thing is we are going through some training. Most people, I understand, have done their training.
One of this.
Oh, is there one that hasn't? Well, I'll remind the one that hasn't that he should consider. Or she.
That's a heathen one, I know.
No, I'm not sure I've done it.
Oh, there's two?
No,
They're
I've
not
done-
very long, guys.
No, they're not long.
There's one that takes a little bit longer, but you could fly through the 20, 25 minutes. 40 at the longest.
Yeah.
I could leave. So.
Yeah. And we're having another meeting this week in order to review who may be our future auditor, so. I think, unless you have any other questions.
Not a question, just any regrets for this week that can't make it.
I can't make it on.
We have.
Will we have quorum
I
then?
don't know, but that's why I'm telling you tonight that there's no way.
I said I couldn't do Wednesday, sure did.
Well,
So
that was a mistake on my part, because you had the date and the day wrong,
Oh,
and so I mixed it up, but everyone else should come.
Okay.
No, definitely not. I may not have a vehicle that day.
Those two and then the two external committee members, so
They can.
that should be enough time.
Should be enough.
Just
Yeah.
if you hold off for a second,
mean,
when Justin can
I'm
tell you when he
cooking,
gets
so,
back,
you know,
if he can attend or not.
Okay,
I didn't go.
we'll confirm tomorrow.
Yeah,
maybe.
did Gerard say he could read it?
Yes.
Yes.
Told me today he's in a training session all week till 9 o'clock. So, well, maybe he's ducking out for that, I don't. Okay,
He did accept the meeting and was sent back, because I did. Yeah, and Gail can.
yeah, so we may wanna check, just, how many do we need of that, if,
Quorum would be 3, I believe, isn't it?
Yes, I think so.
I don't know, because I know with the fire one, we have to have 2 commissioners out of 3. We gotta have at least 2 or 3 fire department members, and then I think 2 of us, 1 of us are short.
So I,
4, we have 6, we would need 4.
yeah, even for,
Let's fix it,
So
okay.
we would,
So I have Sereno, Jameson.
You did, you already knew that, Glenn. And Gail and Gerard accepted. And you accepted, so.
We have quorum.
Okay. So it was only Councillor Lutz and Councillor Clark that I knew that weren't able to come.
That being said, is there a video link? I don't know what Dave's going to detail, but I'm just asking if there's a
We can
video
do it,
link,
definitely.
I very well might have a
Are you
lunch
able
break
to-
at that time.
Are you able to do like a Zoom or?
I can get a hold of a tablet that day and I might be able to get a Zoom.
Yep.
I'm just asking, so if I show up, bonus, if I don't, Justin, are you able to make the audit committee this week?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay, we're ready to move on then. Diversity Kings County Committee, Johanna.
So, I thought I'd already spoken to this meeting, but anyway, the Diversity Kings County meeting, this coming month, is not happening in place of that, there's the declaration of, African Heritage. Heritage Month, yeah, Heritage Month on November, no, oh my goodness, having one of those days. February 6th at the municipal building, everyone's welcome, there will be food and it will be the Caribbean food truck. Yeah, so, and it's at 6, I believe, isn't it? 6 o'clock. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and as I think I said in my report, they've done lots and lots of their diversity work and are really, the background work that they've done is really going to help our accessibility committee group. And I've mentioned to a few people that this is likely the best committee to be on as council representative because we get fed every meeting, and because as part of sort of diversity education, they felt that food and ethnic food was going to be a really important part. And so every meeting, they bring in food from a local vendor that's of a different ethnicity. So it's really cool.
That's really neat.
Yeah, it's a really neat way of sort of
Embarrassing.
anyway. So that's really all I can tell you about the diversity committee. I think in the report I mentioned the election of the chair and vice chair and sort of where they've been at and what they've done so far. Actually, there is the one more thing, and so and we've discussed it at our meeting. One of the recommendations coming out of the diversity meeting was that new councillors, both at the municipality but at the towns in Kings County as well, being offered and encouraged to attend an all-day session called Overcoming History, which is apparently a very excellent way of sort of being educated on the historical background of the issues that we face with our communities. We'll wait and see what happens because the intent will be that the municipality will sort of organize it and then open up the education. Any questions?
No questions? All right, let's move on to the Navasota Trails Coalition.
Boom, you may have to put that through. This is my little red book, but I take papers in and out, and there's a good chance that that one got taken out. When I went to no, it's not, it's right here in front of me, boy, I like that. But that one would have got erased, so when I was getting new tablets and that, I had to erase my old one, so I only have what's in front, so I have the second part, guys, which is probably better. This is the condensed version. This is not much further. I could have submitted this. I was unable to go, but Jordan was able to go my part. I did check it with him early. So the meeting opened, the election for executive roles, chair, vice chair, secretary, treasurer. They put that on hold to the next meeting. Like I said, we don't have enough people here to do it, so that's great. They provided a review of the coalition's current state of affairs. Not sure it's in the best state of affairs right now, just going over stuff. So it's got proposals, options, strategies for the coalitions and future directions. The next step for them is to coordinate efforts for the Harvest Moon Trail with emphasis on the coalition's connection to all the municipalities. I know, I don't know if Jordan was able to share this because he didn't know that we've at least had 6,000, 5,000 for grading and $1,000 for everything else that's gotta be done, but, so at least Burke is doing their part. If not, if this falls through or whatever, we have our part looked after a little bit. Subcommittee was formed to support discussion. We're lucky you don't have this as I do, but it is attached on the next sheet, guys. There are a lot of great people that we know. So Natalie, that used to be here, is attached to it with her department. Also, community of large, Brittany Bright, that used to be here for any of the former counselor. She's also a part of it. So we're a lot of good people that know the trail and have been in roles with the trail. Even Bobby Best is on here, so we all know Bobby. Outstanding items, of course, was storage loose for items previously held by Rick. We all know that as well, as we may have had a grader for quite some time up there. But for some of the stuff he has left, is banner, screen, printer. Addressing outdated office listings online with Air JSC, and updating our tourism Nova Scotia database has been updated. The meeting was adjourned and waiting for the next date. Any questions?
Councillor Jameson.
We had a presentation just earlier. What would the trail, is there, and would you see that that would be a positive aspect along that trail? The Saturday type of fair activity, or?
I think it would be, I wanted to ask, because that's one question I didn't ask her, I feel bad, is what about the dust from the machines, four-wheelers and that, especially during the summertime, will be coming up and down. I think that'd be good, I think you would stop, it would be something you would see, would catch your eyes, you're gonna stop and take a look.
Okay.
That, for me, and again, where I work in Waterville, I see that trail being used by walkers, bikers, four-wheelers, even horses, so it's a well-attended trail. And I do see that that would be a positive, another thing to bring people into Burke.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, Councillor Packanack, Accessibility Committee.
So we had a meeting January 13th. Basically, we talked about a number of things that are on this or on our agenda. We did review the plan for the front desk renovations, because the front desk renovations come out of our recommendation on accessibility, because that front area was not readily accessible and not designed with accessibility in mind. And so we're really happy that that's going forward, and that's great. Taylor has been leading, held a survey, an online survey that really looked at issues around diversity in a very open-ended way, and she provided us with the early results of the survey. The survey closed February 1st, so that would have been Saturday, so we haven't don't know the final results, but within a week of this survey being available, I think we'd have more than 40 respondents and very good kinds of responses with very good information provided, and that information will be used towards our planning for the plan that we have to submit to the province on diversity. And so, and our other big deadline is the review of our accessibility plan and having that report done for April 1st as well. In the meeting, we talked a little bit about some of the other issues, things that we would want to look at. So for example, there was a concern raised to the committee about the need for bus shelter, and in particular, the request had come for the bus stop at Main and Commercial in front of the convenience store, the
Inconvenient store at the moment.
yeah, the convenience store. But, but I did notice that somewhere in the information that we've been looking at recently around the budget, that and two other potential shelters are sort of in the plan or in the budget as something that could be considered. Bus shelters are really important for accessibility, and we also need to understand that where the bus stop is important, because the buses that go down will only go down to the sidewalk, not all the way down to the street. So I'm not sure how accessible actually that particular spot is. And then we had the Berwick Community Garden Group has expressed a desire to increase the accessibility of their buildings. And so they were sent off to get some information for budget processing. The Gardens Group were actually looking at this and thinking that if this was something the town would support, then they would be looking at doing work that would be covered by grants and would work with the town and doing grant proposals, because there are a few others that we might be able to look at as well. So the two that were assigned to bring back some information haven't been able to get the work done because of the weather, so we don't have anything to bring back. So that was any questions on what happened? Yes.
Just two quick questions. The one is where the proposed bus shelter also floods down there, like really bad. It's by that river and it overflows every time, almost to the house. Cheryl's old house, Regan's old house now. I'm just saying that I don't want to see someone stranded in the bus shelter either. My other question was for the survey, did it get handed out at the school?
They worked with the school on doing it, so I'm not sure exactly what Taylor did.
Okay.
But the grades, I think it was a grade 6 class, wanted to do a project
Wonderful.
with the town, and so that they were going to be working with Taylor to get the survey out. So yes, they go to the school. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Johanna. Let's move on to the IMSA one and see it there. It's this whole IMSA committee was established to look at the governance and the operational potential to connect with King's Transit and Valley Waste. So it's good to see, because we're now a couple of years into this. Yeah, and we're finally getting to the point where they're ready to make some recommendations around the whole governance and funding and administration piece of it. So there'll be a board meeting, and then there'll be a joint council meeting, hopefully later in February, for everybody to come and see what they're recommending on that. So they've taken another step forward on these EPR regulations to be ready by December 1st, and they've approved the contract with the company that's going to pick up all, or pay for the picking up of all the recyclables. And I learned on the Friday that I think we're the first region in the province to have signed a contract. We're much further ahead than the others. So King's Transit's been busy with the process of hiring a general manager. The one we have is interim, and also they've been busy with the whole purchase potential for the electric buses and preparing to go to RFP for that. And we had an orientation to follow by Valley Waste. So you got a chance to go, and Chris and Derek were both there and get to see all the highlights of the operation there. So any comments on what you saw there?
Seagulls were great.
I could pay $10 and see that when I drop it stuff off.
I do a regular visit and tour of that facility, and I will say that it is much cleaner than when I first went there 5 years ago.
Much more organized and
Much more organized, better atmosphere, and, well, to a degree, a better atmosphere. And the staff seemed to be working better coordinated, and it was a much safer environment than I felt previously.
Unfortunately, we didn't have the opportunity to tour the sorting area, the
Mm.
station recycling, and that's a neat operation too. I have seen that, but we didn't do it this time. I think they're always willing to do another tour if anybody wants to go again.
I was gonna say, they've reached out to me years before, so anytime, just give us a call, and you're welcome to come as a counselor, we'll give you a tour, so. I'm assuming that hasn't changed, but maybe it has, but
I was talking to Andrew,
yes.
and he said, yeah, just email me whenever you wanna go over it.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Any questions on that?
Did
Yes.
they get a tour of the, I don't want to call it the recycle plant, but the stuff they resell? Did you guys get to
Yes.
go?
Oh,
Did
my,
you?
yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, but couldn't line.
No?
Gotta go on Saturday
Saturday.
mornings only.
And make your point, but I saw that, so,
We
yeah.
heard that there's a lineup, and you don't try to cut the line or someone's gonna cut your throat.
Well,
You know,
no, I-
This is really, pickers are there.
Yeah.
There is stuff, all right.
If you have a need for a whipple tree or horse hames or something like that for your backyard pony, they have some there.
There you go.
All righty, and the last one then, Fire Services Committee. Deputy Mayor's to report on that.
Yes, I do. I could not get a template to work, so I have a written copy in front of me, guys. We met January 27th, 2025, myself, Mayor Tenacity, and CAO Boyd was there on our behalf. 2 out of 3 members from the Fire Commission were there, and there were Ken, Jamie, Luke, gentleman in the corner that you knew, that you met at another meeting. I'll think of his name. Cousin.
Richard.
Richard's cousin Jeff was there. It was a really good meeting. The key agenda items, guys, we had to talk about budget items yearly, what was coming up. So for this year, I'll get into it. I'll go through the 4 budget things, guys. Then we talked about budget items for long term. There'll be a new fire truck coming in year, and I'll tell you in a second. They talked about a carpool parking lot being down there, the far end of the fire hall. So we have them in other places, and we'd like to have one there. And one thing that I found interesting, how the commercial street's gonna look when the new bridge is done. Just grades and everything, we talked about that. For the yearly items, they'd like to get new LED lights put throughout the fire hall, so you can imagine these are much brighter than what they have down there. And they got a price on that, and that would be $74.70. We split everything 50-50 with the fire commission, so we would be half of that. New shingles and gutters, so they have the new building that they're building out there, but the old building has lost some shingles and never had any gutter. They don't want water coming down to wash over the new building. They put an estimated cost of $6,000. So the new pumps inside, they need to be primed, so they'll need 2 air tanks to prime them. Well, they're $2,000 each, I'd like to have 2, so that'd be half of ours again, so it'd be 2,000. And then they might need some lawn maintenance again on the other side, and they put an estimated cost of 15,000. They weren't sure, we were working out other things as well. And maybe some asphalt repairs, and they couldn't give us a price on that, but that was more beautification as well, and we said, well, we'll see, this is the fire commission talking at this time, you know? We pay half, fire commission pays the other half. And then we've done a big ticket item, and I'm welcome to hand these around, guys. I have 2. It's just a long range forecast. So as we have them with the town, we have them here. So we got them the new mini pumper. And I was very happy sitting on the committee. They had 2 fire trucks within a year apart, and they realized one was coming in at 925,000. And the other at the time was coming at 1.3 million, and they realized we couldn't do both. And with insurance and everything, they were willing to give up unit 21 when it's time. And that just in year 2027, 28, they were asking for a commitment of 1.3, and I think we allowed in the budget 1.8. The only thing we came back with that was, we wanna make sure that we still are able to borrow enough money, because it'll be a long term in that. And they have 2-year waiting once they put an order for a truck. we knew we'd have to go back to council, as we will. Car parking lot, they'd like to have the car parking lot area once there, the new bridge is completed. And there may be some more talks with DML and Chris Palmer as well, just to see, trying to see some of the things we can do together. And then our number one thing was how the road's gonna look and how the grades are gonna look, so that everything is back to normal. I don't know if you've been in recently for the bar one, but it really comes down around, so they just wanted to make sure, especially Mayor Tenacity, and that everything's put back the way they want it to be put back, so that we have a final plan together. And that was pretty much our meeting.
Thank you. Any questions? Deputy Mayor? Councilor Dan?
Will the beautification, the improvements on the facility down there that are needed, do any of those qualify for beautification grants? You mentioned it, but I didn't hear the word grant in there. Does it? It may not, would it?
Sure. Jennifer had her hand up.
Well, I just wanted to clarify what Councilor Lutz was talking about. So this is the reinstallation of what they've torn up to do the project. And so what the fire department is looking for is when Dexter's moves to the new bridge installation, that maybe they could pave some of the area wider so that they could add in additional carpool parking, and then also put some topsoil in. So that's what they've requested, and then staff at the town are working to do a mock-up of what that entrance could look like to then pass on to Dexter's, with the mayor working with the commission to see if it all fits with what they're thinking as well, to see what they would be able to contribute versus what we may have to contribute, and that portion is in our budget under the capital, with 50% of it coming from beautification. Though the asphalt piece would not be a grant, qualify for the grant.
I think the asphalt is.
Oh, I don't think it qualifies as, and my understanding from the fire department is that's not necessarily new paving, it was also some,
So they have parts of their parking lot they like to have potholes and
Yes.
that fill. They do have a section they would like additional asphalt on. They have a bit of a list that they were hoping Dexter's would, they want the pond filled in. They still want their access to the river, the little roadway they had down to that. So there's some of those things. So there's two pieces. There's the section that's on the fire department property. And then there's the piece that around the roadway rehabilitation, if you want to call it that, at the end, and what we might do for beautification pieces. And some of that may qualify for beautification funding. I don't know, Katie may know that. If we're talking about lampposts, for example, or flower beds or a new sign, all those kinds of things. I don't know if you have anything to add to.
I would say what you, echo just what you said,
Yeah.
the beautification pieces that we'd be looking at were similar to what you just noted. And that's in the capital budget.
Yeah.
And making sure the sidewalk went all the way and was redone. I mean, that's just kind of the discussions we're having with Dexter's and department. Their Department of Public Works now, provincial department, not to be confused with our Department of Public Works.
It just because we're talking about, I know we gave report, are we ever gonna put crosswalk across there to weeks, because you cannot access, so it's back to public, when we were campaigning, someone wanted a new sidewalk put on that side. I said, we might put a crosswalk across it, but we have one that comes all the way up on this side that goes across to Wheaton. Technically, you're jaywalking to get across the road to go to Wheaton.
So that would be an item we could put on that list to see if that's eligible to put a crosswalk there. I don't know exactly where we need to go, but you couldn't put a crosswalk into their driveway. So it'd have to be whether or not there's a place you could put it, be probably one of the issues that staff would have to figure that out.
I would recommend that be considered if we're looking at a transportation plan where the appropriate place would go. And it might be more of extending a sidewalk on the other side from the four-way as opposed to a crosswalk further up. So I think through the transportation plan in year 2, that probably makes the most sense to explore it at that time.
Okay, thank you.
have one other question that was related. The trucks that you're talking about, are those made in Canada or are they made in Europe?
Well, that,
Are
you
they
know what,
made
that
in-
is a great question, and we asked that, believe it or not, we asked that question, it comes from Buffalo. One of this truck that they were looking into would be coming from Buffalo, and the price would be locked in. But the price had already fluctuated a little bit while we were there, but there was also a place in Lance they could get in touch with that built their last truck.
Mhm.
And so we also looking ahead, because you never know. And of course, we'd ask for more than one tender and say, can you get a tender from here, so.
Okay, so it's out to tender and
No.
Well, it's not, it's quoted,
It's not been approved.
not been approved, so, but yeah,
The last truck we got there, we just built it for them.
yes, we got the chassis and that, built it all up to specs.
Okay, anything else for fire committee? Okay, well, thank you very much for the committee reports, and it was one of the things that we've introduced new this term. And with the idea of having the template for the reports and counselors providing the information on it, so, thank you very much for that, and I think it's a very nice addition to the way we do business this year, so. Okay, let's, if we can kick through these correspondence very quickly, then we'll have a quick break and then we'll get into our budget discussions. So, Valley Connect Outreach Association, I hope you've had a chance to read this. Primarily, they wanted to come and meet with us and do a presentation. And if council is interested in that, we will ask our CAO to connect with them and find a time of which is suitable to us for them to attend, which may or may not be in the very near future, but we'll leave that to her. Is there any thoughts upon reading that? Are we interested in hearing from that organization? Councilor Goddard.
I find it very interesting because they're not asking for any money.
Yet.
Well, no, there's no financial request. 100% donor support, volunteer operated. I think they're worth listening to.
General consensus that we will follow up with them? Okay, thank you. So we'll add that as an action item. And the Industrial Inquiry Commission reviewing Canada Post. So if you had a chance to read that, basically what they are asking for is us to sign a proclamation here to be part of their review process. And they have a couple of items in the proclamation that they want us to put into the review. Any thoughts on that, Councilor Goddard?
It seems like we're being lobbied by the union, and I don't think it's proper.
Any other thoughts on that? Yeah, I would tend to agree, and if the time comes, we're asked to submit any kind of response to an inquiry, we can provide some comments if we feel we can, but not sure we want to sign a proclamation that commits us to anything at this point. Okay, we okay with that?
Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, no further action required. So food cycle science is our next letter there. And they want to provide a presentation as well. And they're suggesting that they have applied before or asked before if they could make a presentation and did not hear or were not encouraged to. I'm not sure exactly how it was worded, but does anybody remember that?
It could have come to me and I missed it, so I'm not 100% sure.
It would have been nice if it had come to mayor and council again, not, I don't know why things come to Jet, but maybe this is why we didn't, I don't know.
Well, that's appropriate to come to.
Since they're saying that it's a compliment to our existing green bin program, should they not be talking to Valley Waste? Is what I thought.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was kind of curious to know what our green bin program was that they were, that this did compost. Yeah, but we can direct them there if we.
I would think so. It's, the IMSA would have a better connection than just individual towns and picking off individual towns, which would direct them to the IMSA, so.
And then,
So that'll be our action to direct them to contact, Dwight or Andrew, I guess.
where's she from again? Because she says agree. If she was from Annapolis, it wouldn't be going to Valley Waste for a while, it'd be going elsewhere.
Okay, so so that's what we'll do, we'll direct her there. The next one is the emergency management. So that was a letter that was received by all the mayors and CAOs. And it was responded to on our behalf by the Remo organization. Dan wrote the letter. And so that is actually for information for you because it's been done, received and responded to. The next one is the Open Arms winter program. And so they've got a proposal and a request for funding there to ourselves and to other municipalities. Not sure if we're interested how the council feels about this, but I do know the other municipalities, Jennifer's been in touch with a couple of them that have not provided funding or are considering it still. Maybe something we can wait and see what the others do around supporting for this program before we would even either consider it, or we could put it in a budget for further deliberations.
And just to give a little bit more history as to maybe why the other municipalities are, so one did turn down, they voted against providing financial support. And part of it is there is money through the provincial government, and this is a provincial government issue. So the more that we step in to continue to fund housing issues, it takes pressure off the federal or the provincial government. So if there was no other funding resources out there, I think that we would look at this differently. But the Department of Community Services had given a presentation to a session that the mayor and I attended last winter, I believe, and they did note that they have quite a few programs out there. And when a member of Kings County asked if they were getting any funding from the province, they hadn't really explored that option yet. So I think that until they explore that option, and the other option that Berwick has is maybe to provide in-kind spaces if they're looking for places to hold any programming, that might be something we can help them with, but to do that in a in-kind way as opposed to a financial donation.
But we do offer a cash amount to the seniors club that comes here now. We used to just offer space to them, but then we started giving them, I believe it was 2,000 a year. I could be wrong on that number, but we do give them an amount every year now, do we not?
Senior safety?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay.
We just provided space before.
No, we
At one
used to.
time we did.
We used
A
to,
while
and that-
ago, one of the offices.
Yeah. Okay, that was the only one.
Yeah, it's slightly different.
Yes,
So we
so you
could
kind of had it. You know, go ahead.
So I could respond to Leanne, who reached out, and let her know that we would be interested in providing in-kind support and encourage her to reach out to the province and find out if there is other funding programs before coming back to us for an additional ask if there is nothing available through the province, but to get those answers first.
Council like to do that, or? Yeah. I think we should at least encourage them to look where the funding may be for this, and may not be something we want to make a commitment to. It doesn't sound like it's a one-off either, so if you're in, then you may be in for, what are they gonna do next winter? So.
And I agree with that. My other question is, how does this tie into the Evangeline Club? It does.
Well, yeah. Council.
To on that, Basically, they're offering the same service that the Evangeline Club offers now.
No, they're not.
It is not an overnight service, it is a daytime service, 5 days a week.
Oh, okay. No, I was thinking it was, I thought this was for the mobile outreach.
No, this is a different one.
Okay.
They're hoping to open a facility that basically does the same thing that the Evangeline Club does now. We're not saying that we don't need more of those facilities.
Yeah, but if we were gonna fund someone, why
Why
don't we
not
just fund the
narrow it down?
Evangeline Club and then?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so the two key components are mobile outreach and a drop-in center. And the only issue that I would sort of say is different, and one of the problems with Evangeline Club is that the drop-in is only available 5 days a week.
So that's true.
Is this only 5 days a
Yep.
week too?
Mhm.
Okay, well then it's not an improvement. And yes, they have had a relationship with the Evangeline Club.
Yeah.
In the past. And so they're well aware of what Evangeline Club offers.
Okay, so we have action item from there for sale. And our last one is the library board, and if you remember our presentation that they made to us, they had a number of financial issues that they wanted to approach they were gonna approach the province on, felt the province needed to be approached on. Apparently, when they met with the county, the mayor, the county agreed to write a letter on behalf of all the municipalities and then asked the mayors to sign it. So he did. And so I got a copy of the letter and said, here's the letter written on behalf of all the municipalities, please sign here. So I did. Anyway, I want to share it with you. So I forward this around, but it went to Minister Ritchie. Congratulations on your election win, your important appointment to communities, culture, and tourism and heritage portfolio. We were writing to you on behalf of our respective councils to request your department's finalization and implementation of a fair and equitable funding formula to support our library system. On December 11th, 2024, elected representatives of all member units of Annapolis Valley Library, units from West Hants, Kings, and Annapolis counties met and received an impactful presentation of the state of the vital services provided by the Annapolis Valley Regional Library. As a collective, we were duly impressed by the significant growth in usage over the last 3 years, the amount and diversity in services being offered, efficiency improvements being garnered through the creation of the Same Page Provincial Consortium of Libraries, and increased access to digital collections, and the large number of age groups and newcomers being served. We also heard tangible examples of how the AVRL branches are front and center in our communities, offering services such as rapid testing kits for COVID, virus detection, and serving as referral agency for vulnerable populations. Unfortunately, as a collective, we also heard and are dismayed by the high turnover of staff and the present disparity between the current remuneration levels and a living wage, unsustainable occurrences of deficit budgeting, and the resulting impact that these and other negative factors are having on the volume and reliability of services being offered by Annapolis Valley Regional Library. Mr. Minister, we know you will agree that our province and region is presently in a state of unprecedented transition. We also believe, Mr. Minister, that you will agree that many of these impacts couldn't have been planned for, but that our library system is integral in addressing the challenges and benefits our communities are facing. Many of our municipalities are stepping up with significant capital improvements with respect to physical libraries. Creating modern and accessible libraries and community spaces has been and will continue to be a growing priority. And we believe that a refreshing funding formula to support a vibrant library system is an important part of the government's plan to grow the population of our province. We would be most appreciative if you would action the vital work the government has been undertaking in modernizing the financial relationship. Respectfully submitted, and the mayors are listed there. So that's for information, and I think it was certainly well needed to kind of get our voice in there. Yeah. Okay, that's our correspondence. Let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back and we'll do the budget. All right. Oh, now we're back at it. So you remember when the first night we started on the budget things and budget discussion, I said it's really hard work. Well, tonight it just got harder So that's kind of where we are in this next round of budget discussion. So the process we're gonna go through, I asked Lisa just to kind of hit some of the initial highlights, so you know some of the key pieces of the process that we have before us. And then some of the assumptions that we had started with in the budget, that we will review those again. And then we'll ask Lisa if there's any changes from what we've seen before. And then we'll have a bit of a discussion if there's anything that people need to understand again, which I hope we had your opportunity last time really to make sure you understood the numbers, but we'll go over that one more time. And then we'll do some brainstorming of what some possible scenarios may be, or some direction that we can give to staff to try to make things balance on our operating. And then we'll have a similar discussion in year one with capital. So Lisa, if you could take us through the first few slides there.
So we wanted just to start with this slide, just to remind council that 1 cent on the tax rate collectively with your commercial and residential totals just over $24,000. So again, just to remind the assumptions in version 1 of the budget. So the budget was created with no change in the tax rate. So that may be something that council wishes to discuss and direct staff this evening to come back with some different scenarios for tax rates. The RCMP increase has been included with a 6.5% increase. This is based on our current fiscal year's increase that we've received. However, we have not yet received that notification from the RCMP with respect to the actual increase we will be experiencing next year. There are a number of grant applications which have been included within version 1 draft budget. We've yet to receive confirmation and success of those grant applications. We're assuming an increase in utilities of 2.7%. Again, this is based on the assumption of last year's utility increase. Nova Scotia Power is currently in front of the UARB with their variable rate increases, and BEC would likely take to their commission to do a flow through if those increases are approved with MSPI. So again, not a confirmed figure at this point. CPI, when we prepared it at the time of budget, so per our policy, we use December to December CPI, which is the consumer price indexing, which is applied to our salary and wages. At the time we prepared it with 2.4%. The final number has been confirmed for rolling December to December at 2.3%. So not a significant change there, but that is a confirmed number at this time. Our group benefit increase, the industry has been saying we should expect to see a 7%. This has not yet been confirmed. This is from our consultants that we have, and will be updated at the time that we receive those actual figures. Our QP wages have been inputted at the existing collective bargaining agreement rate plus the CPI. So we are entering negotiations within the next month for our QP unit. And again, those wages are expected to change as that agreement becomes finalized. The assessment services increase, which is our property services valuation corp that we pay for, we've increased those by 7%, which is based on the correlation with our assessment increase, which is typically what we see, but again, yet to be confirmed. Education increase also based on 7%. We're still waiting for the enrollment numbers to come through, which is the other piece of our formula in calculating our education contribution. Area dividend or deficit is currently inputted at 0 as we work through area's budget and review their financial situation for 24-25. We should have an indication if the town may expect to see a dividend or deficit. When we budget for them, we're always a year behind. So our budget for 25-26 for the town would reflect their financial status for 24-25 fiscal year. Our insurance increase has been inputted based on 24-25 figures. We'll expect to see this usually in March. We've inputted the budget with no changes to staff complement. So that as well may be something council would like to direct staff as we prepare version 2 of the draft budget to make some changes there. And also we've included no funds in our operating budget to fund capital or our reserves. I mentioned that as well when we reviewed draft 1 of the capital budget. So again, another point that council may wish to consider and direct staff to bring back some further information on. An example, I guess, I know that CAO Boyd was looking at Wolfville's proposed budget, and historically they have utilized 4% of their taxation revenue to put into a capital reserve fund. And I believe this year they're proposing 8%. To meet their upcoming capital needs as well. And that's just an example of a neighboring municipality.
So do you want to, can you get the slide just to show us what the planned deficit is at this point, just our difference in operating and our revenue and expenditures? No.
It's up there. It's
Yeah, we have a couple pie
180,000.
charts.
One more. There's not a global slide. It's in the agenda package, but it's not.
The pies, the circle ones didn't give us the total
Yeah, you just have to
expenditures,
do the
math.
math, which is $180,000.
Right.
Yes, it's down like this one.
So we're at a $180,000 shortfall. So listen, can you tell council what you told me about what your changes are in that last budget that you see, what you presented it at roughly 100? There's no change, right, in kind of what we're talking about,
That's right.
even with, so we're still looking at around $180,000 shortfall.
$180,000 shortfall, changing nothing, basically.
Yes.
Just the minor ones that may occur one way or the other in some of those numbers that you
Yeah.
explained,
Yeah.
you know, that we're not sure of yet. Deputy Mayor.
Best case scenario, area dividend we'll be looking at. I'm just saying, best case scenario.
So there is some news from area that there's some budget benefits that they're seeing now that may or may not allow a dividend in the very near future to be paid. They've been making, the last 2 years, they made, what was 52 this year, the year before was, do you remember what their dividend?
127 for us.
127,000, and then 52 is the payable to us.
Yes.
In a dividend, of which they told us, this is what you're gonna get in a dividend, of which they don't have the money to pay. So, that's how they've made that commitment at present. And that's how they were intending to make the commitment until they understood they were in a better position, which may come sooner than later, but they still owe us for 2 years and then we may not see it for another year. Derek?
And how does that dividend impact our books?
So it does get recognized as revenue, but it also sits on your balance sheet as a receivable.
So it's dollar in, dollar out.
Yes,
sort of net zero.
Yeah.
Okay.
that's right.
So is there any questions of the budget from last meeting that Lisa presented that you need any clarification on? Okay, so now we need to do some suggestions, if people have them, on how we find $180,000. So, and what we can do at this point is we could simply list them. Right, we'll just perhaps throw them out, we'll put them up there, and then we can chat about it. Something will have to be done, so we can't throw them up there and say, no, we don't wanna do that. No, we don't wanna do that, no, we don't wanna do that, and at the end of an hour, we're no place different, right? So we've gotta get some suggestions up there to deal with at some point. So let's get the suggestions up there first. Councilor Goddard.
Something I wanted to say before we get into that. We could be looking at more than $180,000 with looming trade wars coming up. And that possibility of our expenses could really, really go up. We could be looking at more than that 180.
Well, if we could find 180 first, then let's deal with those looming trade war situations that could impact us for the difference. Okay. Councilor James.
I agree that, that's it, that's somewhere down there. But, question on the solar gardens, where are we in achieving revenues in that? And are there any opportunities at all to look at that? That's one side of it. The other side is the Berwick Electric Commission. There is outstanding, as I understand, outstanding debt that's supposed to come into the town of Berwick's side at some point. Where are we on those two issues?
Sure.
And does that make any difference? Or is that net zero too?
Do you wanna handle the debt one first?
I'll talk about the BEC first.
Okay.
So essentially that is a loan that the town provided BEC for cash flow perspective. So that's balance sheet, so it doesn't impact our income and it wouldn't impact our deficit. It's really just the repayment of cash.
Okay.
So on the solar garden, I would not anticipate any revenue generation from the solar garden going forward for a number of years. Particularly, we might not be able to own it. So I would just kind of leave that. I don't think we can bank on that as an option for this fiscal year.
Okay. But did we not have an original budget for what it costs to, or what the cost of production is down there versus what our output income is, put it that way.
And that we will not get any income from it.
So it's net zero.
Yes.
Okay. That takes that off.
Any other suggestions? Councilor Goddard.
The barriers in the solar garden, I noticed it's $100,000, but it doesn't say how much the town share is.
That is a site deviation that is required by the contractor because the current setup is not compliant with Nova Scotia Electrical Code. So we are trying to get the contractor to pay for the cost, and that's why we have not included it as a cost to the town, but it is work that needs to be done.
Okay. The pump at Morse's Pond.
So we're talking capital now. Let's stick with the
Oh,
operating.
yeah,
the
yeah.
180,000. Let's stay with there. Any suggestions?
Just sewer rate.
You have a list? Let's work through your list. That's
Okay,
great.
sewer rate, where are we at on that? And can we expect anything that would improve our position as a result of alteration in our sewer rates.
So, no, for the
No.
net overall. So what I've done with the sewer, so essentially your rates cover your operating and capital expenses. So I've input that into our budget, so it's a net zero impact to the town collectively. And then as we go through the rates for approval, that's when council will have to make the decision if you want your rates to increase that substantially to cover off the debt that will potentially be coming online for your wastewater treatment capital upgrades. So it's inputted into our operating budget as a net overall impact to the town. So that $180,000 is purely just based on your town expenses with your sewer removed. We treat that as if it's like a separate department or entity, so it's not like your rec or general government that kind of flows into the overall budget. That's supposed to be self-sufficient and fund itself.
So we have a sewer rate that's totally different from our residential rate.
Yes,
That's the add-on rate.
that's correct.
And I guess we're talking, if we're looking at that, we're talking 7.5 cent or 7.5 cent increase overall
That's
in
correct.
order to cover the 180,000.
Yes, that's correct.
And we are not, is there any opportunity for us to look at new revenues that may be out there? And by that, I'm wondering, we have revenues from a number of sources. The fitness center. We have revenues I expect from
Facility rentals, we got like our own source revenue from those as well.
And have we done a market comparative study on those two to say that we are in the market, under market, over market?
We did that work last year. as
I know we did.
budget.
Has it changed?
I could revisit, but I don't anticipate that there's been a significant change in those time, in that amount of time.
Katie, do you,
Do we do that on the facility rental piece as well?
Yep, we did it last year.
Okay, great. So, Council Roots or Deputy Mayor?
Guys, I think we know where I'm going to go, to that wonderful facility that has not made us a dime any years. It has taken dimes out of our coffers, usually 60,000 a year. So I'll revisit that wonderful gym again, especially with our equipment running out and having to replace that. Maybe time to look at and say, we have tried, we can show the public we have tried. It's not, we're losing money every year. It's the old car that finally has to go to the, anyway, it's just not working, and that may be an area that we may have to look at cutting. That's
So
where
we
I.
can, if we want to put up there on the list, we shut down the fitness center, I think it saves us $34,000. If I remember, but you can, set the deficit on the,
Above that,
I think.
34 plus, we're not staffing it anymore,
No, that'd be everything.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But, and not buying new equipment.
So we can put that on the list, absolutely, we'll get things on the list, because if we bring them up and say, no, we can't do that, we're gonna spend an hour and we're gonna be no further
I
ahead.
know.
So we've gotta put things up there that, yes, we can do. So yes, we could do that if we choose to. And yes, we could add 7.5 cents to the tax rate.
Yes,
Yes, we do that,
We're
then
getting
end of
somewhere.
discussion, we're done. We can walk out now. So we have those two things on the list. Do you have some more we can put on the list, or are you
I
gonna
don't.
tell us no, why we can't?
No, I just wanted to ask if Katie remembers or could find what the net impact of that rate review looked at, because I don't believe, even though you looked at the market rates and we adjusted them, the net impact to our budget was minimal in terms of just thinking how often we
Oh,
want to do
a
a
rate
rate
increase,
rate
what difference
increase
it made.
is, I don't believe it made much of I think it was like 2,000, I
I
don't
would
know.
have to look, and I can certainly look.
Yeah, I just,
I
So-
don't know off the top of my head.
I think
So
it
let's
was
put that on the list so we can look and see if
to
a
see
similar
how
rate
much-
increase, what it might give us.
Yeah, and more so just how much time do we put into doing a review if it was a minimal?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's put that on our list to do then, to potential.
You know, besides that, is there any marketing opportunities? You know, we do you get your first month for $5 or something like that. But is there any marketing opportunities that are happening out there? Because I do know some gyms that are saying that, bring a friend. And if you bring a friend, that friend will actually get a discounted rate for a short period of time. And really, I see it as being a volume problem up there more than anything. There's times that I've been there's 5 people.
They do offer, if they do a newbie night, so you can come and get a tour of the facility. They're doing classes, they've done, student discounts. We've done corporate memberships. They've really tried several avenues.
Okay, I just wondering if they're beating the drum, that's all.
Allison is,
She's a good person, I know.
she is wonderful part, and I know she has, but, we could look at some more options, but I do know that. And I think we've pretty consistently floated around 300 members, and to make up the deficit, that's gonna take a significant increase in membership. So it might start with the bring a friend, but like, we're gonna need to make a significant impact to have lots of new members come on a continuous basis, or find another way to cut the cost to make it balance. Am I making any sense?
I hear what you're saying, so I do what to do, bring up income and reduce expenses.
It just, we've been pretty consistent around our active membership, and the area we're drawing from, yes, it's a larger area, but to influence that many more new people to come, like, the bring a friend might bring a handful or even 20 people, say, but that, to have them stay for a full year might make an impact. But we need to consistently increase our membership and hold that membership over a longer period of time. And so Allison's been trying to create incentives to bring new folks in, and I'm sure she'll continue to do that, but.
The 2 biggest problems I see with our gym, and it's a wonderful facility, guys, but it's like golf courses. If I can go to one just down the road and get a new membership there and get back in the day for $6.66, and then I can go 10 more minutes this way and go to the next course, that's what you're gonna do, and that's with gyms. Ours is limited time. That's where Michelin has us over a barrel. You can get the fob, and I can go 2 in the morning if I should choose to wanna go work out at 2 in the morning. Those doors lock at a certain time and they only open at a certain time, and that doesn't fit in with me being a nurse. I work 12 hours and basically it's closed by the time I get off. And that is our limitation, unfortunately. If you're Monday to Friday, 8 to 4, it's a wonderful place. But if you're not, that is where it doesn't hit everybody. And and we found that, and we'll get 300 members, but we can't seem to get over the hump with that, and it just doesn't make it profitable.
But is it membership or is it time of day? Because early in the morning is what I understand, you're getting a lot of members there. And later in the day, and during the day, your numbers drop.
I'm not actually sure, but Allison can run statistics on time of day that folks are there, like who's coming in. I don't, to be honest, don't have.
And
a
for
good
old people
understanding.
like me, I go to midday, right?
Mhm,
So it's not busy at all.
mhm.
So is there something that we can scoop in there in order to get that up? Just a thought. Because we are a seniors town, and you would think that there would be seniors, especially if you're looking at heart healthy programs. that, you know, the hospital runs and they've stopped running those for an extended period of time. Actually, they're kicking people out of there now, I think, after 10 weeks.
Mhm.
Encouraging them to go to other programs.
And definitely, I mean, I go sort of, often I'm there at sort of 3 in the afternoon. And I do watch the numbers pick up before I'm leaving. And so that's really interesting. And I wonder, yeah, if you could draw more of us in that empty period. By something, I don't know what you need to offer, so that people would be comfortable.
Because I'm seeing
But
those.
yeah,
So let's, the
that's-
fitness center is an opportunity, let's
It's
just,
definitely
that's
an
what we're trying to identify, there's some more. And that's what we need to do, because the more we can give staff to work on, then the less pain it is in one of those items. If we give them one suggestion, like increase the tax rate to 7.5 cents, we're done, right? But if we can come up with 4 or 5 options, then maybe the tax rate only increases by, 3 cents instead of 7.5, or whatever, right? So we find those options of which we can spread out the pain. So, you have another option for us, Dick, in there?
Well, we're only a year out of having our budgets balanced right out, correct?
I'm not sure.
We have a staff member we have an extra staff member right now still working on not our budgets, our audits, sorry, let's say audits. So do we not still have an extra person?
It's not so
So, I think you're referring to if there's staff changes, then in a future year it could balance the budget?
Like, it would help. It would
Okay,
help.
but how much would that help?
That's
that
what I'm
question.
trying to figure out.
So Karen and then Tim.
Right.
Those were the two I was thinking of, yes, exactly.
Certainly. So the manager of public works role has only been included in draft version 1 for 1 month.
Okay,
Because it's understood that he will be retiring in May.
Okay.
So that's already been adjusted and accounted for. Also, while we had fees for consulting this year, within our 25, like F25 budget, if you recall, I said that level of spending for audit services is expected to remain status quo moving future, because we were tendering for audit services and our audit service bills have been coming in significantly higher than we've been budgeting for. And while it will come to council likely on the 11th, if the audit committee makes the recommendation to move forward, it is on par with what we have included in the budget for draft 1. So we don't expect to see any savings there, but no additional costs. So that's a silver lining, I suppose.
Ned's here.
Sorry.
How about reserves? We have no operating reserves and
Well, we would have some,
Mhm.
but right now working on that we would not take any money from there, but that's.
I know,
But that's an option we can put on the table, we just know the consequences of that, so
last year, that's why.
how much is in the reserve?
Yeah, let me bring that up. And just while I'm pulling it up to give you the exact figure, I'd like to also remind you of the slide I presented when we discussed the capital budget, which shows your reserves going into the red from a financial condition indicator perspective, as there isn't a plan to replenish at present. So as we head into the fiscal year, our operating reserves are expected to be 698,000. And if you remember at the end of 23-24 audited financial statements, they were at 1,370,072,000. So we did rely on balancing our fiscal 24-25 operating budget, with utilizing reserves for what we deemed as one-time expenses, which has drawn down. And then over the course of this fiscal year, we have had a number of unanticipated expenses, which council's approved the use of operating expenses to cover those as well. So that's where we're seeing a significant drawdown within this fiscal.
So that would put us in the red at that level,
Yes.
what we're currently at right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the 698 would put us in the red.
Yes, there's some pull it up. I can't remember if it's red or yellow for your operating. Your combined reserves is red.
I think it's yellow for
Yellow.
this year, proposed on what's being used for capital. But if you put any more in it, that might be when it turns red, because it definitely turns red in the next fiscal year.
Okay, and will the unpaid dividends or undispersed dividends of area impact those reserves for this year and next year?
No, they will not. No. When that cash is released from area and received, it'll essentially go into your cash balance and offset your receivable. So
Okay.
just a net on your balance sheet.
Net zero.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any other?
Can I ask just a
Sure,
question?
please.
Sort of, so, I mean, there's only a couple of ways that you can cut money out of this budget. And it's either things or it's people. Right. So are there any opportunities for efficiencies in the staffing end? And that's a question that actually terribly uncomfortable asking.
Yeah, that's. No one likes to ask that question, but it does need to be asked, or if it's, you know, the answer is usually no until it says this is what we need to do, and then it's who and how, which gets even more difficult, so, you know,
So I would say that we would need to prepare something for council to discuss in camera about what that might look like, because any change in staff level will have an impact on service levels. So we could do that exercise and provide some input to council at the next meeting. But we would need to just run those pros and cons of what you're giving up.
And I guess then the other side of the coin are there any services that we will offer that we could cut. You know, and it comes down to things that people expect.
There might be a couple there that we could look at for version 2, like, what is Aaron? Brush
Pickup,
but
frequency
But
of
how
snow,
much
sidewalk
portions
clearing.
on?
but does
Yes,
that, where does that, we have so many employees already on staff, how do you identify the savings?
the-
Net zero.
No, it's the rental of the container. Costs us $6,000 to $8,000 a year.
Okay,
But then
That
you're
piece.
not providing,
Pros and cons.
Plus the fuel.
Staff impact though.
no, I was saying,
Would council have any direction on where they would like to see services reduced? Because that may be helpful for staff to run those exercises,
Oh,
to look at the potential for reducing the staff.
because that's, yeah,
it can't be in public works, like, there's only like 4 of them that work there,
And this is like,
It can't be in the town hall.
so like,
so for, I
Yeah.
just feel like for us to say, we're gonna go away and we'll work on some things and come back.
yeah.
I would feel more comfortable if there was some consensus around council that would like to see us run in these particular areas, just to give us some direction there. Because as we start talking about things, this is,
myself personally, what I would like to see is what services we can cut to keep all the staff we have. I don't wanna see people losing their jobs. I really don't. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional, but I've seen people lose their jobs. I had my own family lose their job, and it is one of the worst fucking things in the history of the world. I'm sorry I swore. I'm sorry I swore.
Please don't.
So I don't wanna see anybody lose their jobs. I don't wanna see anybody lose their jobs. That's just me. But I don't wanna see anybody lose their job.
So, I mean, the other side of that is if, you know, so the really, I mean, certainly because the two go together.
Yes.
And that's kind of, so then the other thing, the only other places we can cut is, you know, not supporting things that we,
Sorry.
you know, we have supported, not doing some of the beautification, not doing the little things, which is what.
And those are the things that people notice too.
That's,
So-
and that's, you know, that's what I noticed.
Well, I'll just,
Yeah.
throw the chicken into the clucker. I don't know if you know what I mean by that.
Yeah, I do.
But, could we, have we addressed, could we not look at what some of the things that we as council do? Do we need to travel as much? One, is there ways that we can reduce travel? Do we all need to, I'm not saying that it was bad this past year because it's a good team building exercise. Do we all need to attend the,
Conferences.
the fall conference? Could we look at it from a standpoint, mayor, deputy mayor, and one council, and then
Yeah.
rotate that on an annual basis to a different council? Not big money, but still money. We have to set the example ourselves,
Yep.
is the other thing that I think of. And, you know, could we have a policy of, instead of, you know, all or number of staff attending certain conferences, one staff attend, bring back that information and be the sharer of that information so that all staff are educated on whatever happened there. Is there any opportunity there?
We can look at it. So I know that in public works, that is a bit different because they require CEUs, education credits.
Correct.
So you're then starting to treat staff differently because they have to attend certain conferences, whereas other staff, you're telling them they can only go to one, but we can look at some options. As the mayor said, everything's on the table to look at and bring options back.
Those are just.
Yeah, and the more that you have on there, that you're taking little bits, the less painful it is in one area, so it's, you know. And if something changes somewhere that there is a $10,000 savings, well, then maybe there's a couple little things you can put back.
Yeah.
Like, so you can look at doing that. Yeah.
And I'll just put this other one out there, and that is, are there other municipalities that have like services that we can subcontract our services to them, similar to what we do with BEC when Mahone Bay needs a truck down there? Are we charging them? I expect we're charging them for that day for our two guys to run down to Mahone Bay. Are there other like services and opportunities out there? Because I know we've done it for area, probably done it for Mahone Bay, maybe Riverport. Public Works, is there anything that we can do to help County of Kings as opposed to them hiring a full person to do something?
We
Throw that out.
We can look at
The sales service options.
different services or talents or skills that we have.
Instead of them hiring a whole new person to do it, maybe we can add 10% or 20% of our time to theirs without interfering with our work. Or subcontractor type of scenario.
It says we got a bylaw expenses of $16,000. What is that for exactly?
So that is a portion of Krista's salary in
Okay.
there. So technically, when Krista, I don't know why I'm saying technically, but when Krista was hired, her position was more focused on bylaw and planning, and then when our executive coordinator left, Krista took on 100% of that role. So the bylaw piece, although we charge 10% of salary, all encompassing, so it's not just so benefits, anything related to that, to
Sorry,
Oh.
you started this finger thing.
did you want to clarify?
I'll add at the end, I'm sorry to interrupt, it just popped up.
Okay, so that is, that's what that includes. So if it wasn't there, it would be somewhere else in the budget.
Lisa, you wanna add something?
We're mittens. I just wanted to clarify as well, that is where our Remo expense is, which is about just shy of $9,000. So the portion related to Krista's salary itself, that's only about 7,700. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you.
Yeah, we were suddenly doing scalpel. And
Yeah.
Krista was wondering.
She's probably like, was I gonna get big raise?
Yeah.
You've looked in that.
Yeah. Clarify that.
Long enough that there are
These are
no
good
big
questions
raises.
to ask.
Yes.
Good
Okay.
questions to.
Like, I'm just, like, I don't know, like, I'm so overwhelmed here, guys, like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I'm just gonna be pretty honest.
So did, is that everything?
No, go ahead.
So we did mention staff, but we didn't mention staff wage increases, and we do have a policy that it's CPI, but I don't, is it a policy, is it practice, is it?
The policy, though, it does say with council's
That's what I
approval.
thought, yeah.
Mhm.
So I will just caution though that every IMSA organization that the town pays into is increasing their salaries by 2.8% this year. So again, not saying it's fair, but you are giving funding to organizations that are using Berwick taxpayer dollars to increase wages for outside organizations and not at least matching it. And ours will not match it because our calculation for cost of living is different. But if we don't receive the same, it's a little bit of a unfair message to those organizations, but it is, again, can be on the board.
Some of this is not gonna be fair.
I was gonna
to a lot
say,
of
maybe it
people,
should go on the board. We're
But it's,
putting stuff that we don't like, and that should probably be one.
Should we,
Um,
should we be review, oh, go ahead.
I just wanna also add that under your collective bargaining agreements, they are locked in and entitled to it.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that won't get negotiated out of your QP, so really, I can run numbers if that's council's wishes for draft 2, but that would be impacting your Etascope and council.
I think we'll put these things on the list, then we'll have a review the list and see if we do want you to run numbers on those for the
Okay.
next meeting, and then, because we're just, right now, we're trying to create that list.
Okay, perfect.
Okay?
You know, just, given that we are allocating funds to IMSAs, do we need all the IMSAs in order to operate the town?
So,
And I know we have
example?
obligations under contract, but I'm still a little bit baffled on the Valley Waste one with the, there's a big increase in Valley Waste, and I know that it's a renegotiation of contracts. But 5 years ago, we were supposed to be getting some of this money back. And it was supposed to be costing less as a result of I'm trying to remember the term,
So, yeah,
sustainable, or basically the consumers are paying for waste twice.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking about the Chester landfill project.
Well, yeah, that one too, but
This is the EPR.
the EPR, and it's just coming into play in December, right?
So that doesn't, of next year.
Of next year.
not this
So
year.
we won't receive anything on the,
It occurs, it does start December of 25. But yes, we
but
won't
that's a
see
whole
anything,
year
yeah.
from now.
Well, it's,
So it won't impact the
No,
Valley
this
Waste
budget
budget
until
until
the
next
next-
fiscal year, which is why
Till
there's such an
April
increase in this
2026.
fiscal year. So for our IMSA organizations that I can think of, Valley Waste were required to provide waste services, and I would suggest that we're not gonna find a cheaper option. King's Transit is not a requirement, but again, I'm not sure what I'd have to look at the IMSA on where we stand on notice on that.
It's 1 to 2 years, and I'm just saying from being in here, we did this and when we lock in, it's sometimes 1 to 2 years to get out of your agreement, but still.
And you're responsible for all of the debt associated, so there's assets associated with those. So when you leave those organizations, you don't just leave cleanly. There are financial impacts associated with leaving those organizations because there are tangible assets associated with them. Remo, we would be required to hire or put on staff an additional staff person to do regional emergency management, and we have a hard enough time filling all of the slots for a emergency center. So being part of Remo provides us to have a more redundancy in that. Area would be one, but again, it'd be hard to,
Yeah.
it's where we buy our energy,
Valley Fiber Network.
Valley Fiber Network, so that would be
Could
one.
we look into actually what it would cost us if we were to go to Eastlink or Bell or one of those guys versus Valley Fiber Network?
But are they everyone on the list? Again, nobody wants them, but these are all viable ones that can go on the
Valley
list.
Run requires a 2-year out clause, but it can be something you can give your notice on, but it wouldn't hit our books until 20. So we can find out all those IMSAs.
And there's Valley Wren as well.
That's the one that requires a 24-month
24 months.
notice, and it would have had to, oh, no, we're still within this fiscal, so it would be anything after April 1st counts as next fiscal year for the 24-month notice.
Deputy Mayor, did you have one that you were gonna?
No, I just wanted to know. I said, but these will all be brought back since they're on the list.
Well, we're gonna have
Okay?
another kick at them when we get the rest of the list done. So I had a couple, I don't know what you guys covered. When we talk about expenses, travel expenses, one of the areas that we can look at is having area pick up some of our expenses if we're traveling on their behalf. And they're going through budget deliberations, and these are some things we can, no guarantee it'll happen, but we can put forward to them. And the same thing regarding our staff spend a lot of time, and so do other municipal staffs with area, and at one time they used to compensate us for the CAO's involvement, and then somewhere along the line, rather arbitrarily, they took it off. And I'm not even sure there was a they, it was more of a he. So
So
that's
the
something we
board
should,
approved it.
oh, yeah. That they may be able to reinstate that, again, that's something we could put back on their budget deliberations to see if we can get that in place, which is $20,000 at one.
It was 21,000,
Okay.
but I would suggest in the negotiations, it's supposed to be based on a percentage of your CAO salary. I would also say they should cover a percentage of mine. Not just because it's me, but for the amount of work, I spend about 20% of my time on area business. And have it tied to a percentage rather than locked in from like 2018, because it really was about 9% of the CAO salary.
That's how they did it.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was just a set amount for. for
we,
each
like,
municipality to be compensated
Yeah,
based on the work they do.
board
because they all
agreed and
do.
approved, but they never considered CPI,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
And I'll just, does the same thing, or are we at another net zero item? Does the same thing apply to Berwick Electric Commission for times allocated? Are we properly allocating times between Berwick Electric and Town of Berwick? And is that net
Yeah.
zero as well?
No, so it is a revenue, it's not, no, it is a net zero essentially because there's no markup on your administration salary. So the time accounted for the admin staff has been captured through time sheets and validated. So we did tweak it slightly for this year's budget. But it's not a profit to the town. So it does reduce, like 100% of our salaries aren't paid for by the town. The town pays for about 60% of mine and BEC pays for 40%, for example, but there's no markup on that charge for BEC.
But is 40% a proper allocation?
Yes, yeah, so it has been increased. It was 30% when I joined 3 years ago. And we've been tracking time very diligently through our new paywork system to make sure that we're charging appropriately. And every year that will be reviewed at budget time. And then compared on what projects are coming up within the entity and making sure that we're charging out that percentage accordingly. And we can have a true up at the end of the year if there's a discrepancy.
And does that apply to the other staff, the CAO? Yeah, okay. All right, as long as you're
And
trying.
other finance stuff and
Administration, yeah, so it's finance clerks, accountant, myself, Jen, customer service as well.
And Public Works.
Public Works, we charge out as they're used. So if they support BEC, an example, I guess, doing traffic control or something for BEC job, that is captured and expensed directly to BEC, and the opposite as well. Like if BEC helps for Christmas decorations around town or something with their bucket truck, then that is charged back to the town.
yeah, and just wanted to clarify that for this year's budget, we've actually been required to, instead of using an admin fee to recover it, any expense that we can directly charge to BEC, so our postage, our office supplies, we do have taken them out of the budget and put them directly in BEC's budget, per some direction from the Utility and Review Board. That'd be
While we're on BEC, this is an age-old one, but at one time BEC used to provide the town a dividend.
That's where I was going.
So whether or not there's any potential, it doesn't have to be the 100,000 it used to be. Maybe it could be 10, 15, 20. Is that potential to put on the list as?
You sure can. That's up to that commission to determine
Well,
if they would like to increase rates. It may be something they can consider as we're setting rates for the year.
that's something we can bring up at the next commission meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The other one that I don't wanna bring up, but I will. What did we pay for Christmas music this year? Is it a big budget? Nothing? Great, thank you.
That was a one-time capital expense on the installation, and then now it's.
The one other one, does anybody have any more?
Oh, well. Just one more.
Keep them coming, Derek.
Yeah.
Keep 'em coming.
It's still on the electrical theme.
Okay.
But there's a whole bunch of lights that are on at the Century Center. Are those charged to the town or are those charged to?
the ones that are on the building or,
And in the parking lot?
good question.
I don't know off the top of my head.
And it makes,
I do think
People
there
that
is,
are
because
happy.
it's been an issue
Go
before about
kids can go to
them turning the lights off.
That's,
Because they turn them off at 11 o'clock and people are still in the building and they come out, it's pitch black, and that is
It's just like
something.
our fitness center staff opening the facility in the mornings,
Yeah.
they've requested for lights to be open earlier due to security reasons in the
Yeah.
morning, so I would assume. it'd be
But
like-
that might not mean that we still might get the bill. I think that's the
Oh,
question, is who
That's
pays
the
the
question.
power
Well, yeah,
bill?
that would be the question.
So
So if they,
I would say that the building lights on the building are definitely charged directly to KMCC.
Okay.
The ones in the parking lots, we would have to double check on who pays that power bill.
Okay.
We can double check on that.
And what it was,
Pardon?
and what it was, so we have the
Yes,
number, yeah,
yep.
thank you.
And as a side note, Aaron, Katie and I are reviewing the costs that we provide KMCC. So if we do find out that it's not charged to KMCC but charged to the town, then we can get direction from council on what you want to do with it, but we'll give you all the other information to consider as well. So it's not just a one-off.
So you're looking at the other utilities like sewer and such and
No,
taxation.
So we plow all of their parking lots as in kind. We put up signs for them in kind and
Line painting.
line painting, some line painting. And so as a return, we were to get free ice time and things. So we're just reviewing that agreement to ensure that some of what we're providing, we're also getting
Fair
of
trade,
that.
fair
Yes,
value,
so
yeah.
that's what we're working on right now.
had the agreements since they moved to the new building, so this is kind of an opportunity to re-look at that agreement. So there's a number of items in there, money changing hands and services and things, so, yeah. Deputy Mayor.
The Union Street lights are working now. I'm glad they're still working, but there was a $50,000 cost to put in to replace them. Could you put a four-way stop back in there? I've just got things that used to be there.
That's a capital
that's
item.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, Councilor.
Under transit, almost $100,000 a year to King's Transit. What would it cost us to run a shuttle from the fire hall to the old highway and back and forth? Would it cost us more than $100,000?
So we don't get to make that decision necessarily. That's either a King's Transit Board decision or a UARB decision. And it also, we pay based on a corridor. So moving the stop outside of town may not change the corridor because it's a 1 kilometer on either side of the stop that goes into the formula. So I don't, again, we can ask, but I did sort of ask this question and they don't want to get into everyone nickel and diming the service. So the corridor's put in for a reason, and if you move stops to the edge of town, it may not actually impact what we pay. But more importantly, it's not just a Berwick decision in deciding the routes, it's part of the King's Transit Board. And then I think depending on the significance of the change, it needs to go to the Utility and Review Board for approval.
We would have to withdraw from King's Transit, then they would decide if they change the route and change the stops. Then we
But
could
even as-
decide whether or not we
Yeah.
wanted to get people from Berwick to those
That's
stops, if that even happened, but that's, yeah.
So I'm wondering, CPI is 2.4% or 2.3%. And we've not talked about general increases on all of our services at this point, but
You don't budget that way.
we don't budget that way. Can we not look at what's items that we do?
Correct? You don't look at it, we don't.
Well,
just
well, even
apply
if,
it
even
across
if you,
the board, no.
even if you took the fitness center and said it's increasing rates or CPI.
Mhm.
Rentals.
Oh, I
Facilities.
see what you're saying on the revenue side of
On the
things.
revenue side, not the expense side, on the revenue side. Does that make any difference or is it just a hole in the snow?
just wanted to, Katie did find the impact. I think it was pretty minimal, wasn't it, Katie?
Yes, so for rentals, all rentals, including ball fields, it was $1,800. And the minor increase, was accounted for in the budget of last year of the fitness center, so there was no significant impact in that.
But that doesn't include the CPI.
If, just a quick high level, if you increased your membership revenue by the CPI, you're looking at around $3,000.
Some level of retained accounts.
Yeah, it's 3,000 more than what we have right now.
Yes.
So what if we sold a piece of property, the Main Street property? I know we talked about keeping some or all of it for stormwater. What if we kept some, sold some? Where would that money go if we were to sell that?
Well, essentially, you can put it into a reserve and draw on it as you wish.
Okay. So that's an option for selling. We do know we have somebody interested in purchasing it, whether or not we put it on the market or what we could do is another thing, but it's. Okay, have we exhausted the list of things that we could ask staff to look into and
I think so.
time to do a bit of a review of the list?
No, I mean, I was gonna say, you might have a call-in session because Councilor Walsh might have a few. I know he's not here, I know but
Yeah, did we hear anything back?
I was just checking.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you get the list, Jennifer, do you
I
wanna
have
run
a
through it?
bit of a list,
I've got a bit
so
of a, see if
I
they match.
have, so Berwick Fitness Center in general,
Yeah,
policies and looking at attendance for travel and conferences for both council and staff. Sale of service options to other municipalities or others. Wage adjustments. IMSA review, maybe particularly DCFN. Looking at switching from DCFN to Bell or Eastlink for service. Area expenses, so CAO and finance, what we may charge back to them. EEC dividend. CPI increases to all rentals and land sale.
what was the land sale, what was one before that?
CPI increases to all rentals.
Right, okay.
Rental fees. Other services. Levels. Other service levels, so
And specifically the rental of the container, like anything in that regard that
yes,
didn't just,
like the
Yeah.
waste container for brush.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
I have one that,
conversation travel you mentioned. The lighting at the parking lot, KMCC.
so, KMC, that was the lights, power. Anything under grants.org?
Well, that was another one I did have, yeah.
Do you have any direction on those? I think at this point we'd be looking for direction. We're not gonna recommend which ones you cut.
What grants, you mean?
So there's a list that was in your package on what we provide to grants. So we know the.
can you put it up on the board? Yeah, please,
Or-
thank you.
What was it? I'm sorry.
I think it's in the info report, is it?
So instead of getting into specific ones, can we suggest an amount? And then we can worry about how we would divvy the amount up at another time. Because it's 20 to 10 and we start looking at the 6 or 8, we'll be talking about that for,
$15,000.
I don't, what,
Can I throw a number that big out
well,
there?
what is it now?
I don't think we give away 15.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
Well, we do if
Yeah.
you count
So-
BDCA and Valley Wildcats, we do.
Yeah.
So then,
So the total, if you look at your grants.org BDCA Valley Wildcats, it's 30,350.
so if I say,
$30,350, okay.
if I say 15,000, going that high, we're not going through them tonight, I'm just throwing a number out there again to put up on this board. Not saying that's the number we have to reach, but
What was that, yeah? Is it the-
20 or council support, yep, it's in that one. So it's under, there's an information report, I believe.
Oh, yeah, okay. Perfect. Yeah.
I have one,
Okay.
well, I just have your appetite, the mesh internet. I don't know what the value is, but we pay for internet in town that is
Why?
free wireless.
Why are we paying for that?
it helps out with people in apartments and that. Just,
There's a
it,
library right here.
I know,
I'm sorry, I gotta pay for my own internet.
Do we know
You
the
pay for
cost
your
of
own
that?
internet?
Is that something we need to look into?
Do you want us to bring the number back, I guess?
Yes.
Well,
yeah,
okay, we're gonna go down. So all those things that we just listed, are they still on the board that we could ask staff to look at those? I mean, I think at this point, it's, feel free to make any kind of, we wanna know the impact of the change in those. But also, you know, maybe the recommendation where it makes the most impact or what a least impact might be. So you could do some of that work and bring it back. And so, and I think the last resort may be the difference in raising the taxes. So that would be the bottom one, right? So we do the work on all these other ones as best we can, see how much we can come up with. And then the remainder that we can't is would be in a tax increase. And does that make sense? Fair to staff to do some work?
Did we get direction on the grants to work this number?
Well, I think
Just on, Adam said cut it by
by 15,
15, which is half.
yeah, well, I was thinking,
That's all.
you use that as a number, you come back with us as to after you look at some of these things that said, well, after look at these things, if we could cut this by 25 to 25 or to 15 sort of thing. So you don't make a decision on what to cut, you just make a decision on an amount.
What,
No,
I,
Or you want us to come up, because,
So Adam suggested a total amount of 15.
yeah,
I didn't see the number before, I just threw it out there before I
Yeah.
saw the number and that's why. And I would ask one thing, just clarification, landmark keys, is that not money we've already agreed to? Should that be bracketed differently? We've already agreed to pay that money. I look at that differently, but maybe not, but that's what we've agreed to pay, so I would almost highlight or remove that.
yeah, that's gonna be a challenge with some of those, we already agreed to some of those things.
Sorry, I don't know.
Anyway.
I would say if Counselor Lutz suggested 15,000, if that's what's agreed, then I would ask council if we can reduce the budget by 15,000, but then we need direction from you on how
Which ones?
to redistribute that 15,000.
That was from
So-
grants. That's what that was from this grant, yeah. So let's
So
go.
how would you change those numbers? We don't need that right now, but.
Well, I
is
can tell you right now,
15
I'd split everyone by half that I could, just to start with. Again, not that I want to, but if I was doing this, that's what I would do. I'd cut everything in half and say, we'll start there. And how's that look?
So is
So I don't wanna get into that conversation.
No, I know
because
you
we
don't,
got-
and I don't
We got
either.
7 different opinions on that, so,
And I have a conflict, so I can't speak to this one.
So are we doing anything with this number, or are we just keeping it as is and you'll come back to it based on what the other numbers say?
well, we could do that too, we could wait till we see how close we have to get, and
Sure.
that could be a conversation between this one and the tax rate, or
Yeah.
Okay.
do we have some flexibility on it?
I guess not at the 50% level, but I'm thinking, you know, can we cut 25% out of that?
Yeah,
Yep, so again,
that's, okay,
And we'll get some information on some of those ones, like what our commitment is and if we have any notice period, like I don't know
Right.
what I don't know if we have agreements with those bigger ones, like
Yeah,
other
we-
than the MOU that we have with BDCA that says we'll give them 10. So we should just make sure, do our due diligence and bring that back for the discussion piece.
And the other one is RCMP, it's up $53,000. What level of extra service are we getting for that extra $53,000?
Done.
So
That's
that's,
just the cost of living increase.
So- Yeah, and I just wanted to remind you, that's just the estimate that I've included based on the increase that was recognized this year. So with that, like, I know we talked about bringing some things back next Tuesday, but I'd like to propose that perhaps we pause. It gives staff some time to work through these options, potentially get some more concrete numbers that come in and bring it back for council's review and feedback on, I think it's the 25th of February.
what day is that?
I think it's our committee of the whole meeting.
Now, just suggest this one other thing, is there a way to look at setting up a separate rate for environmental issues? And it would be separate from our residential and commercial tax rate. That is totally separate. Because we are going to be spending more money on our environmental and stormwater management in the future. And could that be used to deal with reserves and maintaining reserves in the future?
So I believe Mahone Bay just did something like this, but it doesn't help your operating, it helps your
Reserve account?
your capital. Yeah, but it is something we can look at. So, and I would say we would need the stormwater management plan before we did that, to say, here are the upgrades that we need to do, and here's what the average cost would be, and here's how we might leverage.
Don't we know what that stormwater management cost is at this point? Haven't we done an RFP to
The
know?
plan, yes, but not the infrastructure.
But that's the start of it, is what I'm saying.
That'll be this fiscal year.
Yeah, we've
the-
already-
The hope is that the stormwater management plan will inform our 5-year capital budget. So by next fall, or this fall, I guess, sorry. This, really what you're suggesting will help us next fiscal year.
Okay. Well, let's put it on the back burner then until we can, but not forget it.
Now, I know we're getting late here. One thing we could look at, and I'm not even sure if this is possible, so in previous years, the town used to separate out and show the education rate or the valley waste rate separate from your general tax rate. It still added up to the same, but on your bill, you showed it differently. One thing that we could look at is what little adjustments need to be made to just those portions of the budget. So if this year valley waste was 5% and next year it costs us 5.2% or cents, then you add all that up and see what the overall increase is. So you're covering the cost through your rate
Right.
and using those as the driver as opposed to other parts of our budget as the drivers that make.
Are you talking about your mandatory services? Are covered?
And I'm not even sure if we can do that or how we would do that, but I can talk to Lisa and I can tell that I need to explain what I'm saying a little
Yeah,
bit
that
clearer.
seems more for information's sake at this point,
Yes.
for future, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But I think anything we can do to help inform the budget to the
Mhm.
general public is beneficial, so.
Absolutely, I think, because we did have the slide, I think, that showed our mandatory cost increase alone, I think was 100,000, say for example,
Mm.
and our assessment only increased 200,000, so right away, you can see that you don't have control over that. So I think that's excellent information. But we'll reconvene and she'll explain to me better,
Okay,
so I can understand it better.
so let's take a few minutes on the capital budget, but if we don't finish, we don't finish. And we'll turn when we take next go at it.
I was just gonna say, we don't have anything planned for, or sorry. We have a light council meeting for the 11th. So we could defer this discussion to the 11th because of security's reasons.
Sorry, I don't know if that's appropriate that I asked, but I would just ask that if we could seek direction on the proposal that was presented
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
evening.
That's
just
what I was
consideration
hoping we would
of
cover that
time.
one.
Very good.
Okay, so let's deal with that one only then, and then we'll deal with the rest of it at, is
On the
that fair, on the 11th? We can move it to there, but we also need to talk about a timeline of our, because we've shifted things around a lot. So we need to, at some point, whether that's you people staff figures out or whatever, but we gotta get that public meeting and we gotta do those other things around the budget, so.
Yes.
Maybe we
tentatively
can-
set a date.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that,
Was
obviously.
We had tentative,
Yeah.
we had tentatively set a date, but hadn't talked to
good.
Yeah,
to
well,
anyone else about whether it worked for
Okay.
the public meeting.
so we probably should do that really soon
I
and
think-
try to get it back to.
Maybe even if we can just touch on that at the end of this meeting potentially, just to have that chat.
Yeah.
Can I just add a little information about the boxcar before
Okay.
we start
Well,
discussing
good.
the boxcar?
Okay,
So I just wanted to let council know, so we do know that the deck was a 23-24 capital item for the boxcar. So we received a grant for $10,000. In that capital budget, we thought we would be successful in receiving another 28,000 from ACOA for it. However, we were not. And the total boxcar deck came in at $65,000. So the town's over budget by what was approved by $38,000. So I plan to bring back an RFD on the 11th because I'm going to need council's approval for the funding of that $38,000, which I am gonna have to recommend come from operating reserve. But I just wanted to share that information this evening before you get into your discussion related to the boxcars.
So ACOA declined us, is what you're saying.
They did, yes, yeah. So,
And there was an increase due to the fact that some of the accessibility features on the deck require materials that weren't clearly understood in the original quote. Such as materials of the handrails, those types of things. So there, I mean, that was not $38,000, but it was over, just below $10,000.
Free isn't always free. I remember these free cards, box cards.
So,
okay, so, Councilor Clacken.
so what we're saying is we've already put an incredible amount of the town's money into
yes,
this particular site.
yes.
And I guess the issue is, that one of the things is, obviously, if we do not do something to address using the boxcars, we have wasted a whole bunch of money as well. And I think that's.
We still have storage, 2 carts to store stuff, and you can go up on the deck, have a picnic, you can look down. We've done, and we thought we were getting more money than we did. This ACOA thing was a blindside, I would say, for this councilor right here, thinking we had it.
But it just muddies the waters when we have this discussion. I mean, it just, this is a difficult decision.
We gotta make the doors work before we can even use them for storage. It's gonna be an expense.
I really don't see how we can afford to do anything with them this year.
That's how I look at it, that's how I look at it.
Like, we're here scraping the bottom of the barrel trying to save money so we don't go into a deficit. Remember saying we're gonna spend another 40,000 on a couple of boxcars? Like,
This is now, we're now into capital.
Which is a little different.
okay,
Yeah, it's a different budget, a different,
That's using your reserves.
Yeah.
Your operating reserves is the sole funder for those boxcars at this time.
And the assumption is made that the other 50% is coming from a NACOA potential grant.
It's not.
It's not?
We've confirmed that there are no grants that will support this.
Okay.
In this turnaround
Period.
amount with this project.
0.
So then you would be potentially looking at either funding it from 100% from that. I don't know if there's other potential, you just said there's no potential other grants.
For this project with this time.
And I think what we're looking direction from council on is, are you willing to put any money in and how much? 'Cause the quote we have, we can probably tweak it a bit, but what amount are you willing or wanting to, if any? And there is operating costs associated with this that are not in our budget now.
I do think we should set a limit, because we do have had, the deck's an obvious one, challenges with kind of keeping on a budget number, so we set a limit. But I think the group has more potential to manage it and make it happen than we do through their own fundraising and other sources. So I think there's a bit of a negotiating opportunity that we need to go back to them and say, we're willing to put this much in, how much is that work for you? Then the onus is on them to source out who that might donate money. I mean, this is a nonprofit organization. They may be able to go to Home Hardware and get the lumber donated. That's stuff we can't do. They may be able to do some of their own fundraising. They're gonna generate revenue in fees. So they have the ability, much differently than we do, to go to the community and make this happen. We don't do that. We go to a contractor and then we're at their mercy. And our experience with contractors has not always been pretty. The other part of the negotiation that we've already brought up with them, there's operating costs to this. And perhaps they need to be charged a fee to handle some of these things, but then the onus is back on them. This is gonna cost you for this year. Can you manage this yourself? And let them make the decision, because it's a wonderful thing, but it can't be entirely on our burden for the expenses. So, and they're in a much better spot, I think, to make it happen in the short time frame than we are. And they're putting an awful burden on us to say, you know, you gotta make it happen by June 1st, because that's a Saturday we're coming.
Yeah.
So I'd be feel much more comfortable saying, here's the money that we can give you. Can you make it happen for June 1st? And you let us know. And we're willing to, you know, support you and help you, but the onus is back on you a bit more. So that's where I feel far more comfortable from a town perspective in making that approach to them. So throw that out there. So I know Deputy Mayor has had his finger up and hand up for a bit, then Councillor.
The timeline is what, she basically said 7 days to give her an answer. That's not enough for as many questions now. Like I said, at least we gotta find out what porta potties are gonna cost us for 3 months. I'm not trying to, but that's another cost, and it just keeps being another cost and another
I mean,
cost.
that's on her. Right, that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
You gotta cover these expenses. What we don't know is what the power bill might be, but that's, you know, we can come up with a number on that. That's rather, you know, I think we're talking about a basic fee, but these are the expenses you're gonna have to pay for. Power, porta potties,
Insurance.
insurance, yeah, we'll think of whatever those things are, and put that on her. Councillor Goddard's next in.
Is there a possibility of any revenue from this market
For who?
for the town?
Well, I just said that. Well, revenue would be what we would charge them, but I don't know that we wanna, if we wanna put a set an amount that would give us a revenue, or just cover the expenses. That would be another option.
Didn't get the impression.
We are
Yeah,
supplying.
they're gonna have some decisions to make about whether or not, but there are, you know, yeah.
We're supplying a facility that costs us a fair amount of money.
All our other facilities have a fee associated with them. We don't give the gym away.
No.
We don't give the fitness center away. Like, we don't give, you know, we give Gale Days the park when they use it, but we don't, a ball team that rents the field pays a fee. Anyway.
So our two biggest barriers, we don't own the land. We inquired about insurance and they've asked us, do we have a agreement with the landowner? Which we don't have a formal agreement, so I don't think we can charge anything or do anything there. And we've also reached out to the fire and building inspector who might have some constraints that we have to work within. And we don't have all the information on what the inside needs to be done. to finish it. So those are just, I'm just saying for this year, I just feel like there's a lot of pressure to do something, and this will be, although we might say, you can do this, there's still a lot of work that staff need to do. So if you want us to take this on, we can, but it might mean that other things aren't priority. Because we will need to, Krista will have to coordinate with the building and fire inspector, they'll have to get a development permit. I think the most important thing is the property ownership. So Katie was this close, she inquired with DNRR, she was told you can lease it or you can buy it, you need to get a survey. We had a cost on that, and then it was taken off the capital budget to move forward last year. So, you know, we do have some of these things and we know some of these things, but it is a lot of work. That's why I was suggesting, like, can you do one event this year and we figure out what next year is, but it doesn't sound like that's.
Can we just tell them guys that all we can offer you right now because of the short term is the tent?
So that's another thing. So we have 20, 30 tents and they want to use them all summer long. So every Saturday, they wouldn't be available, or we say you can use 15 tents and we keep so many for, because we do have community groups that
Exactly, that
request to
use
use them. And are we going to require that they replace them if they come back?
Yes.
Because they already are in getting to be worn out, and the grant we received, sorry, Katie, I'm taking over all of your, I think there's a lot of negotiation. I'm just not sure if 7 days is enough time. But I think if they're willing to say, you can hold something there, without the box cars this year, are you still?
Well, they even jump in, it had to be painted this year. That was one of the things. It had to be painted. And I'm not even comfortable with that, saying that it has to be painted this year.
It's $5,000, I think is the price you got.
That was the price you
That was
got,
the
was
price.
$5,000.
I think there'd be a couple summer students that like to do it for $2,000, but hey, that's
I did-
me.
You give me the paint all
Inquire
over.
because it is, because of all the ins and outs of the box cars, it's not as simple as painting a wall. And then and to make sure that it's primed properly for a mural, that's the reason. I did inquire about that as well, because.
And the other
And
one
that's the
was
difference
zoning.
in,
Sorry.
so,
That was the other thing. It's zoned open space to have a market there. One weekend that's there, you set up, you tear down is different than having a permanent market, and it's not currently, doesn't look like it's permissible in our, so we would have to do a rezoning, and I think to do the rezoning, we need to know what the property outline survey is. So we don't have to own it, but we would have to know what the parameters of that rezoning would be.
And that could be appealed. I'm just saying, any member of the town could appeal that?
No, they can't appeal
Okay.
rezoning, but they can, we do have to hold a public hearing and everything. So the province can come back and say no. I believe it's an NPS, yeah.
Karen,
Just to be devil's advocate a bit, I mean, from an engineering and public works standpoint, you know, if we had 15 months or 24 months to do this, you know, at the end of the day, we're creating a municipal site, a town-owned site. You know, there's liability associated with that. We would almost certainly reach out to an architect or an engineering company to get a design concept that we would then review. That design concept would, excuse me, need to adhere to building code. There's certain accessibility requirements that would have to be met, whether her organization recognizes that or not. There's also certain, water. We might need to have a water well and water supply to these buildings, depending on the intended use. Even parking, there's risk and liability associated with a lot of things that would escalate the cost, I think, even more than we recognize right now. Katie and I were looking at numbers with Jen, and this could very easily, even to get something, what the committee is looking for even to get something for June, this could easily snowball to $150,000. We do have a quote for $73,000, but at the end of the day, we were putting wooden floors and wooden walls with insulation. And there was no electrical in there whatsoever. A large portion of the cost was accessibility doors. Now, we may be able to defer those, but again, there's liability associated with a metal sliding door with, lay people using those. There's risk associated with that may have insurance implications. I just want to point out that if this was a typical engineered project, we would start with a building design by a reputable firm. And this would be expensive. The
That's why
Aylesford-
we should do our best not to have anything to do with it ourselves, because we cripple it. We're better off to spend $250,000 and haul them out of there.
Yeah.
Really, that's what it costs to bring them in.
And a good example that a lot of people are somewhat familiar with is the Aylesford Lake Beach bathrooms. Those are $1 million bathrooms at the end of the day. They were intended to be a place to wash your feet and wash your hands and use the toilet. Those are $1 million bathrooms.
That's what happens when government gets involved. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I see there. wanted to-
Oh, go ahead.
Well, to start with, I see it as a good idea. I think it's fantastic what has come up with in such a short period of time. It is a short development program, as I see it. If we could throw $10,000-$20,000 to it and let them take it and see what they can do with it, if it'd be a safe environment for them and still provided us with some activity in the town that drew more people to town, then we'd know that this is something that we can start putting money into. The only other thing that I can see is, do we have any other facilities? And I think of Carol's place over there that already exists. And is that utilized currently to a point that it could be given up, not every Saturday, but a number of Saturdays for a program like this until something can be properly done down there?
If I can just speak to that point, I did suggest that they're not interested in that. They only want the trailhead space
Okay,
due to the
so-
fact that they can make it what their vision is. It doesn't fit any other locations in town.
I was thinking the same thing, Derek. Like, is there
I did
a halfway point for this year that we can try to get momentum behind it and work on what that would look like? Because they may be able to, we may be able to help them, but they might be able to get the lease from DNR for that property, and then you say, okay, you do all the work, right? The issue is we don't own the land that it sits on right now, and that's a huge piece. But I know that the Railway Museum in Middleton, before they purchased it, they were leasing it from DNR, the portion of the land that it sat on. So there could be an option like that where we work with them to get it, just the boxcar piece under their name as a lease, and then they can be responsible for doing the work.
We don't own the land, but we own the boxcars. Right?
Right, but I think because they're on their land, any use associated with them is for the landowner, not for the boxcar owner.
But is there an opportunity for them to do for this year, Carol's place on none at all? I know that they don't want to, but you can always
I can
paint a picture of what it's going to be while you're looking to get there. And advertise it from that standpoint, but I understand that some of their,
that would be one.
but can we offer,
Oh, there's no harm in offering that.
is that facility open this summer with the exception of maybe the Saturday of Gala Day?
I was gonna say, that's what stickler point for me, because they're not.
Otherwise it's just sitting there just for the
Day camp.
it's vacant all summer.
Day camp uses it Monday through Fridays.
but not
on
Saturdays.
Saturdays.
So we definitely, as
So
part of
that's-
the communication, put it back. It wasn't well received the first time, but it doesn't mean we can't try again.
I think there's no question that they like that property because they can make that their own. Like they know that it's not their own, but no one else is using it. There's a couple derelict boxcars down there. You can bring an event and it's something that that's why they wanna paint it up. They're gonna paint it up in their colors. If someone else wants to use it on Sunday and wants different colors, that's not gonna happen, right? So it kind of becomes their own a bit. So that,
the
we
fact that
keep
we're
that in
giving it-
mind as well, okay?
The fact that we're giving them that space, in the boxcars, is that not enough?
Well, I mean, it's a great thing because it sat there with nothing being used on it for how many years now? So to have something is a whole lot better than the thing sitting there to continue to rust out. We talk about liabilities. I mean, the animals will be in there soon, and then the two-legged ones will be living in there shortly after that, when they find a hole. Like it's gonna, it's only gonna get worse sitting there without anything being done. Deputy Mayor.
We asked people that have ATV vehicles to come to the head of the trail, take their vehicles there. And they used to go on Saturdays, so now where are they gonna go? Following the rules, say, great, you don't want me driving on your roads, you want me to trailer up, now I don't have a place to trailer up to.
Yeah,
That is-
I think that's a really good point that they need to be aware of, that there's still people, it's a trailhead. Primary use is a trailhead for people to come and go from there. Trail users can park there. That's something that will have to be sorted out. No question.
So just to summarize, so does council, so staff sees some issues, but again, we can quickly get a few answers on a few things, but is there an amount that council wants to put into this or not? And what's your preference? Or, again, we can put the option out that, do you want to use this place while we work on a plan over the next 12 months? Do we want to say, we want to give you some money, but we need to just figure out the logistics around X, Y, and Z? Don't know if that can be done in 7 days, but, or do you just want to say, you can use the space without the boxcars? I don't know.
That's the one that I
Yeah.
think
Jack-
is that
Jack
is,
is all fine.
I'm sorry.
yeah, I mean, the deck is incredibly attractive as just a space to be used, and it should be used a lot more. I mean, I've had people say it would be wonderful to do a performance on here and stuff like that, so I can see why that's attractive. I don't think we're in a position to do anything at this point with the boxcars. The cost, like just when I start to think about it, if you're gonna have to put in power, I cannot see them holding events and without having water. It's like once we get into this, what will need to be done is going to be way beyond just fixing the boxcars. Because
Has anybody ever tried to open those doors? I remember I used to open them all the time when I was looking.
We opened them, we opened them, about 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
And we had to bring a come along.
Yeah.
A chain hoist to get it open. And then we had to use it again to close it. So
Okay.
it took 3 of us, and I was the smallest, to get it open.
Well, when I was younger, I used to open them by myself.
The door's not on the rail and there's no wheels on top of it.
No, I
So
understand.
the doors alone need thousands of dollars of work just to maintain the sliding doors. The rails are bent,
I know,
so
that's just torment.
we jokingly brought a tow hitch, thinking we were gonna have to use a pickup truck to slide the door open.
Okay.
We were gonna hook up and tow it open, but then we didn't know how we would close it, so. Yeah, the doors need a little work.
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
Is that something we should at least try to get done for this year, is to put even just
Yeah,
a 36, we just cut a hole in it, make a
That's
proper
that's what I was gonna say. just
door
like
there,
a
I don't know,
door
or
shut.
smaller
I was gonna
barn
see,
door, sliding door, that,
I was gonna see if we could get Ricky Balser out.
That's what I was thinking, you put Ricky cut a hole in those and
Ricky, he was busy last week with plowing, but, again, he would be the most fit for purpose local person who could give us an estimate on that.
but
I'd like to hear
could we not say to them, you know, we've got this place that's available on Saturdays, with the exception of Gala Day. That's one thing that we can say
Sure.
to you, that that's available.
Mhm.
We have to do a long-term plan in order to go with the, something better down there where we know that you want to be. We might be able to do storage and, maybe commit $10,000 to getting bare minimum so they can use the stage and use storage up there with a one-man door. Ricky come up and put in a one-man door, that wouldn't cost us $10,000, would it?
No,
You don't need, probably don't need power in there at this point for storage and commit half of our tents to them.
we would need to rebuild not rebuild the entire floor, but there's holes through the floor. So the floor is not in a safe condition, and there used to be a bridge connecting the two boxcars. So we would need to cover those holes. Now, that could be done quite roughly.
Three-quarter inch plywood
Yeah.
would do that though.
That's right.
I don't know what that costs now, probably it's $120 a
It's
sheet,
pretty expensive.
Yeah, that's about right.
so.
Yeah, so we could put like an OSB subfloor and call the floor good. And we could probably use OSB and maybe some simple insulation to fill the holes that used to be a connecting bridge. And then somehow get the doors in working order, and they could at least be used for storage. Non-climate controlled.
I was just gonna say, well, that's
Climate
that's
control.
not what you
With
asked for.
possibly a coat of primer, whatever paint they need in order for them to pretty them up in a year's time.
You know, I don't know how old those boxcars are. Another 2 or 3 or 4 years without a primer coat isn't appreciably gonna change their condition. You know, they're pretty stout metal construction.
We can only do what we can do.
And I think part of the stipulation around the power provided to the boxcars is that the artisans were leaving their work inside of the boxcars, so that there needed to be some type of climate control because there would be pieces inside.
And, I'm not comfortable, as you said, they're not getting through the main doors, come alongs to open that door, but a few boots to a door that we installed, they're getting in, if they wanna get in and start working there. There's a little more,
I think that, again, if we got that bare minimum and they choose what they wanna store in there based on the condition of the boxcar. So if there's something that needs climate, take it home with you, cause that's not a good place to, or if it's really valuable and you're worried it's gonna be stolen, we're not gonna guarantee it, you know, or
Definitely.
anything like that, that'll be their
Stipulation
choice.
that they can't leave things on site.
Or
Or-
unless they want.
If they can, yeah,
We are
at their
not-
own risk.
We are not
There's like, I
responsible.
will say that is verbalized to me, that that's the
Yeah.
appeal, but it's certainly something we can.
Yeah,
Just to verbalize
But I
that,
think
we
we
are
should-
not responsible for anything that happens to
Right.
anything you store in the box.
Climate control, we're not there yet. I don't think that's where
Yeah.
we have the funding for that. It's to get a door in it, get a floor on it, make sure it's watertight, get a lock on it,
Paint them up.
and paint them up.
so
Or
are
at
we
least
painting them?
Or at least one of them. Maybe we're only doing one of them based on an amount that we put in. But we're offering them the outdoor space and X number of tents, and you'll need to decide
Mhm.
if we can't give them all, how many, like, what do we need them for? Yeah.
but again, like I said, I love offering Carol's Place up for every Saturday, but just so that, you know, they see that we do want, but it's a time crunch and it's the money figure.
So I just wanna make sure, so we would offer they could use the space, without using the boxcars for what they wanted to use them for, but we would put a usable door and lock and fix the floor, make it watertight, and provide X number of tents.
Katie determined the tents.
That's it.
That's it.
So I think the painting needs to be, if they wanna find money to paint it, like even the
We give
base
them
paint.
permission to
We
paint
give
it,
them
but we're not
permission to
providing
do
the
that.
funds to do so.
Or maybe that's a negotiating thing, like, just trying to think about who's gonna do that and when they're gonna do that.
Mhm.
But I think that's a good, and then the commitment is we would work them over the next year to identify like what we need to know about the land. I mean, I think we're cutting it a little close on the permitted use, but where it's no fixtures other than what's there, I think we're okay. We do markets in our other facilities or other open spaces, but we can work on all those other little details over the next year if they would take it as council has directed.
And they wouldn't be interested in the other park, and why has it lost my head, because it's past 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
But Spicer Park, yeah, that would have no, it's more tucked away, you think, oh,
I'm just going over that, but I don't, I know, I think their interest is that location because of the whole.
okay, I'm just
concept.
throwing out everything for you guys to.
Can we,
Put a number on
well, we should put in maybe a number if we need that for budget, or if we're just gonna do it, but I was gonna ask about running power down one of the poles. That they had a couple of plugs there if they wanted
RV and
to.
RV outlets.
Yeah, something like that, which we do for gala days, and there's lots of plugs on the poles over there and things, if we can do one of that, there must be a place where.
We don't have a generator we could loan them for one day?
I don't think we have a generator, nor do we want to get into that
I
expense.
don't wanna do that.
And then, and also the other part of that is do we wanna negotiate any kind of fee for those other, for the power, the washroom, use of the facility overall.
We're covering,
I think that has to be in there, that we're not covering any bathrooms,
Yeah.
that has to be in there, that they know that they.
because there are several requests on this, in addition to the washroom facilities. Like if we're gonna start listing them.
Mhm.
They want sides for all of the tents.
See,
Which was $3,000. They want 6 garbage cans, which can be painted. Those are $2,500 each. Times 6. They want a sign installed. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not saying that but this is what they've highlighted as
Yeah.
what they need from the town. So if we're gonna say we're not providing bathrooms, do we also need to say we're not providing any of these additional?
have to.
So we just tell them this is what we are willing to provide,
We're able
anything
to.
else, this is what we are able to provide.
That's what I think.
A pot of porta potty wouldn't be a bad thing, Monday to Sunday, right? There's lots of trail users, people coming and going that would, we hear it all the time, that they put it in other parts of the county.
Yes.
So,
We do get complaints.
Yeah,
what's that?
We do get complaints about,
Or not
organic
having one.
material on the trail.
And you had a price for, it's not an accessible porta potty, but.
But if that's what we're gonna put in, that's what we should.
I
Council Pack.
Just one of the other things was, one of the conversations that Councillor Deputy Mayor Lutz had was the fact that that parking available for use of the trailhead has to kind of be available, right? I mean, unfortunately, it sounds like they want to use all the space, and that's another barrier for them. And
yeah, we need to see a diagram like
Yeah.
of where they wanna place everything, I think would be required.
Yeah,
But what we've got to say, what they can have first, like,
Right,
before they give us a diagram.
right, yes, say, can you,
Or we would require access to the parking space as that is what is utilized. Access the trail.
Did she ask you for the ownership of the other piece of the contact for, what's the name, guy
Property
that
right
owns
here
the
that we want.
the other piece of property,
We looked at it
Elliot?
to see if
Yeah,
it was zoned
Terry Elliott.
commercial, but I didn't, she didn't ask me for the contact, but we did look at the property to see what it was zoned. And I didn't pass any contact information.
no, well, she asked me about that, I said, well, that, we don't own that.
Mhm.
You wanna get in contact with Terry Elliott and negotiate with him, that's entirely up to you, but that's,
That would be a good spot for our viewers to pull the trailers in. That other section down there,
Well, like
if
your-
we get to
for
use it.
parking and that kind of thing, and the
Yeah.
vendors parking, like where they pull in with a truck full of stuff. and then they wanna put their stuff over on the, and then they get the truck out of there. I mean, that's, takes a lot of space. I know, Jen, if you're trying to get me on, get your,
Yeah, we're at
so,
10:30.
yes, so we're gonna wrap this one up, but you had some other things on the list that you needed to bring to our attention that's on her, the garbage cans.
Oh, this was on the
The
proposal from what we
We'll
need.
sort that one out.
I think we can do that with her.
Okay.
I still think we should
We
just
don't
say.
do-
it's $10,000.
That's what we're doing.
But I think there's things we still need to do.
Right.
Um,
Well, if we're gonna take the lead on them, I don't know that we give her, if we're gonna take the lead on the door, yeah, well, this is what we're gonna do. Give you access to put a door on it for storage and.
and then we
I
can work
get
out the
quotes.
details of doing any of the other stuff and whether there's an option to give a grant and they go do what they can do. Or not, but that's part of the next 12 months.
Right, okay.
Directly.
Or
Okay,
something
so-
with Valley Ren too, I think.
Well,
They
they could see
don't
what,
give money though.
No, I know they don't. They can find you
Yes,
sources.
they can, that's for sure, yeah. They should talk to them about the STAR.
Yeah.
Program and the destination.
This is their destination event.
so you're gonna contact her,
I will reach out with,
staff will sort that out with her.
You guys will let us know one way or the other how it turns out.
can update on Tuesday or.
Next week?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Alrighty, so I think that's it for tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, we haven't exhausted the list, but we've exhausted ourselves, so therefore it's time to move on.
Yeah, we're not gonna-
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you very
And I'll
much.
second that.
And we have a seconder, so we are adjourned and.
Good job, everyone. That's still, we got through a lot of stuff.
Oh, man.
A lot of stuff, a lot of pushing. Oh, good.
I kind of embarrassed myself.